What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. So as you guys know, I've done a class video for every single class. I've gone over the best builds as far as every single spec available to that class, all the runes, and all the pre-raid best in slot gear that you guys can equip before stepping foot into BFD for the first time. However, this video is going to be a kind of content marathon where I combine all of those videos, and if you want to just sit down and learn about every single class and what's available to them, all their gear sets, all their talents, all their runes, this is going to be the video for you. So without further ado, guys, enjoy. Okay, so let's start with our runes. On our chest, we have Fury of Storm Rage, which is reduce the mana cost of your Wrath by 100%, and each time you deal damage with Wrath, you have a 12% chance for your next cast of Healing Touch within 15 seconds to be instant. So right off the bat, that 100% mana cost reduction on Wrath is pretty insane. And then for our legs, we're going to take Star Surge. I'm not even sure if it's going to be worth weaving this into your rotation at this point, but either way, we'll take Star Surge, just test it out, see what's going on. But with Wrath having lower cast time and having the 100% mana reduction, it might not even be worth throwing this in. This will have a lower cast time as well. It says that it benefits from and triggers most talents and effects that trigger or benefit from Wrath or Starfire. But yeah, we'll test it out. We'll see how it goes. And then obviously on our hands, we're going to take Sunfire for that additional dot. Moving on to our talents, we have 5 points in Improve Wrath to reduce the cast time by 0.5. Next, we're going to put 5 points in Improve Moonfire, increase the damage and critical strike chance of your Moonfire spell by 10%. 3 points into Natural Shapeshifter, 2 points into Nature's Reach, and then 1 point into Vengeance, which will just give you increased the critical strike damage bonus of your Starfire, Moonfire, and Wrath spells by 20%. So that means that would also affect Star Surge as well if we are going to be weaving that into our rotation. Now let's take a brief look at some gear. We're going to use Engineering Goggles, Bright Eye Goggles for that 9 Spirit, 9 Stamina. Any Intellect or Owl Necklace will do here. And then for our shoulders, our back, our chest, our bracers, and our weapon, we're going to go with Nature's Wrath pieces to get some nature damage because we're going to be spamming Wrath with 0 mana cost and a lower cast time because of our build. And then on our hands, belt, and legs pieces, we're going to go with Arcane Wrath for Star Surge and Moonfire. Remember, we don't have to worry about mana here. We have a 100% reduced mana cost on Wrath. That rune, Fury of Storm Rage, is actually completely broken. I think Balanced Druids are actually going to do really good in Phase 1. So moving on to our boots, we have Spider Silk Boots for that 7 Spirit, 4 Intel, 4 Stamina. The Advisor's Ring from the Warsong Gulch Reputation, Honored. And then we're moving on to our next ring, which will be the Deep Fathom Ring if you're Horde, or the Lavishly Jeweled Ring if you're Alliance, and you can go into Dead Mines. Moving on to our trinkets, nothing here will increase our DPS, so don't worry about these slots. But let's move on to the Resto Druid. So for the Resto Druid, our chest rune, we're going to take Living Seed. I'm not sure how this is going to be. I'm not sure if it's going to be worth taking this. Again, this is just speculation, but it may be more worth it to take Fury of Storm Rage and just spam free Wrath, and then get those instant cast healing touches. Like that might be better. That might be the meta. So I'm not sure. We're gonna have to really play with this. I don't want to give you guys the wrong information. So I'm not 100% sure on this, but I guess for the purposes of this, we'll take Living Seed. And then for our legs, we'll take Life Bloom, which reduces the global cooldown of Rejuvenation and Life Bloom abilities by 0.5 seconds. And you gain the Life Bloom ability. Heals the target for 45 over 7 seconds. When Life Bloom completes its duration or it's dispelled, the target instantly heals for 91 and the Druid regains half the cost of the spell. This effect can stack up to 3 times on the same target, so we're going to take Life Bloom there as another hot, and then obviously Wild Growth for some nice AoE healing. As for our talents, we're going to put 5 points in Improved Mark of the Wild to increase its effectiveness by 35%, 5 points in Improved Healing Touch to reduce the cast time of Healing Touch by 0.5 seconds, 3 points into Reflection to allow 15% of our mana regeneration to continue while casting, and then 3 points in Subtlety to reduce our threat generated by our healing spells by 12%. So as for gear here, we're going to go with the Engineering Goggles, the Necklace of Concentration for +2 mana. I think mana will be an issue here, so we do need to be cautious of that and stack a little bit of Spirit and MP5. The Feline Mantle from Shadowfang Keep, Banded Cloak of Healing, or any healing cloak will do to get some plus healing. The Robes of Aragul are really nice because they have 10 Spirit on them, 9 Intellect, That's going to be really nice. And then the bracers, we're going to get healing bracers, and then our advisor's staff. The advisor's staff you can pick up from Revered Reputation with Warsong Gulch. And that's going to be really nice because it gives you 9 stamina, 5 intel, and 3 MP5. As for our gloves, belt, and leg slot, we're going to go with healing items to get more plus healing. As you can see at the bottom here on this build, I have 91 plus healing at level 25, which is really nice. It's a nice mixture of spirit and intel gear and healing gear. And then for our boots, we're going to go with these Spider Silk boots, which are tailor crafted, 7 spirit, 4 intel on those, which is going to be really nice. And then the Advisor's Ring, which is that Warsong Gulch ring. You're going to just need to get honored with that. It's not bad. You're going to get 2 MP5, 5 healing, and 2 stamina from that. And then either the Band of Concentration as your ring, or the Deep Fathom ring if you're Horde, or the Lavishly Jeweled ring if you're Alliance and you're going to Deadmines. Either one will do the trick. Again, here, trinkets don't really matter. So let's move on to Feral DPS. So here, this is a no-brainer for Feral DPS. Chest rune, we're going to take Wild Strikes. This is basically Wind Fury for your entire party. So that's really nice. While you're in cat form, bear form, dire bear form, party members within 20 yards gain increased combat ferocity. Each melee hit has a 20% chance of granting the attacker an extra attack with 20% additional attack power. No effect if the party member is already benefiting from Wind Fury Totem. This is a no-brainer. We take Wind Fury or Wild Strikes. And then on our leg rune, we're going to take Savage Roar, a finishing move that increases physical damage done by 30% while in cat form. This is going to be something that you just want to keep up all the time. Don't even ever let this fall off. It is just such a massive DPS increase that you need to keep this up. And then on our hand rune, we're obviously going to take Mangle. Mangle the target for 160% normal damage and cause the target to take 30% additional damage from bleed effects and shred for 1 minute. So you're going to keep Mangle up on the target. You're going to keep Savage Roar up. You're going to maybe do 5 combo point rips on them and then just shred. That's going to basically be your rotation with power shifting with Führer. So getting into our talents, our first 5 are going to go into Führer here to give you a 100% chance to gain 10 rage when you shift into bear form, or 40 energy when you shift into cat form. This is absolutely necessary. You will need to power shift to do competitive DPS still. And then 5 points into ferocity to lower that cost of swipe, claw, rake, maul, and mangle, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so mangle, this ability benefits from and triggers all effects associated with claw and maul. So that's going to reduce the energy cost of Mangle by 5 as well. So that's absolutely necessary. And then there's really no other talents here that would benefit your DPS. I toyed around with the idea of putting 5 more points into Improved Mark of the Wild, and then maybe going into like Insect Swarm and throwing that up as a dot as you like enter combat. But I do think it's better to just go into balance. Use your 5 points into Nature's Grasp and improve Nature's Grasp, and then just put 1 point in Natural Weapons to just get a flat 2% damage increase. So let's talk about a gear a little bit here. We have the Bright Eye Engineering Goggles again. Any necklace of the tiger will do. You're going to want agility and strength pretty hard here. As for our shoulders, you can go with the Mantle of Thieves, which is a BOE, and I'm not really sure if it's going to be around because it drops in Razorfen Crawl, and I don't think many people will be doing that. So try and get your hands on Bristlebark because these shoulders here give you 6 agility, 3 strength. They will be like the highest DPS shoulders you can get, but if you can't get those, any shoulders with agility and strength will do. As for our cloak slot, we're going to go with the Glowing Lizard Scale Cloak if you're Horde, or the Cape of the Brotherhood if you're Alliance. Either one of those will do the trick. They both give you that 6 agility, and the second stat on them won't increase your DPS. As for our chest piece, get anything of agility, right? The Dervish Tunic of Agility is 11 agility. That's a lot of agility. But if you can get anything with like 8+ agility on it, that will do the trick here. Jurassic Wrist Guards are another good world drop that if you can get your hands on these, they'll be pretty big. That 2 strength, 5 agility on those. And then even if you're Horde, I do think it is worth going to Deadmines and farming Smite's Mighty Hammer. 11 strength, 4 agility on this 2-hander is humongous, and there's just no weapon that will compare at this level. As for our gloves, we have toughened leather gloves. These are leatherworker crafted. They're 6 agility, 6 spirit, 3 stamina. Very good gloves. Pathfinder Belt of the Tiger for some agility and strength, and Leggings of the Fang are really good from Wailing Caverns. Even if you're playing an Alliance Druid, I would try and get these legs. 5 strength, 4 stam, 9 agility. If you think about it, we're going to be in Ashenvale anyway, so if you're Alliance, just run on down to the Barrens with a group and just farm this anytime you can. These legs are absolutely enormous. The Warsong Boots, which you're going to get from getting the Warsong Supplies quest in Ashenvale. They're pretty big. You're going to get 8 agility, 6 stamina with those. And then Silverlane's Family Seal is pretty huge. It drops in Shadowfang Keep, 7 strength, 3 stamina. Legionnaire's Band, which is another Warsong Gulch rep ring. You just need to get to Honored, and that's pretty big. You're going to get 4 strength, 4 agility, 2 stamina on that. Moving down to trinkets. None of these trinkets will increase your DPS, so don't worry about that at all. But let's move on to the Feral Tank. Okay, so for our Feral Tank Druid, obviously on our chest room, we're going to take Survival of the Fittest. Reduce the chance you'll be critically hit by melee attacks by 6%, and reduce all damage taken by 10%. Damage taken reduced by an additional 10% while in bear form or dire bear form. Absolute no-brainer. That's your tanking rune. And then I pick up Skull Bash here because you're not going to be able to use Savage Roar. That's for cat form. And Skull Bash will be really nice. It's going to be basically an extra charge and a kick combined. So you have an interrupt and an extra charge, which is pretty cool because you're going to already have Feral Charge. And on your hand rune, here is where I'm having a little bit of issues. At some points in Classic WoW, Lacerate is worth taking, and some points it's not. Sometimes Mangle generates more threat, even though Lacerate says causes a high amount of threat. I'm not sure how it's going to work in Season of Discovery, so I would say take Lacerate. That's meant to be like the tanking, bleed stacking talent. It generates a high amount of threat. But there are some instances where Mangle just simply puts out way more threat. So we're going to have to test this, but for the purposes of this build, we're going to take Lacerate. And then I put 5 points into Ferocity, reduce the cost of your Maul, Swipe, Claw, and Rake abilities by 5 Rage or Energy. 1 point into Brutal Impact, 5 points into Feral Instinct to increase threat caused in Bear and Dire Bear form by 15%. 1 point in Feral Charge to get that Feral Charge, so now we have 2 charges between that and Skull Bash. 3 points in Sharpened Claws, increase your critical strike chance in Bear, Dire Bear, and Cat form by 6%, and then 1 point in Primal Fury gives you 50% chance to gain an additional 5 Rage anytime you get a critical strike. Now, looking at our gear, basically what we're going to be stacking here is Agility and Stamina. So I have the Engineering Goggles yet again, a Necklace of the Bear, the Earth and Leather Shoulders with 7 Stamina, the Banded Cloak of the Bear, or any Cloak of the Bear will do, 4 Stamina, 4 Strength, Enchanted with 3 agility. We have Black and Defias armor, 11 stamina, 3 agility, 4 strength. We have the Headhunter's Bands of the Monkey, 4 agility, 4 stamina. Again, Smite's Mighty Hammer, super worth getting, guys. You really should just get this, even if you're Horde. There is just nothing that will compare for Druids at this level. The Toughened Leather Gloves again, the leatherworking gloves. Scaled Leather Belt of the Bear. We got 6 stamina, 6 strength there. Again, you're seeing the Leggings of the Fang come up. They're just too big to pass up. They really are the best in slot at this level. Warsong Boots, again, from that Ashenvale quest, 8 agility, 6 stamina, massive. Seal of Sylvanas, again, that's from Shadowfang Keep, so just go farm it. 8 stamina, 3 strength is huge, and the Legionnaire's Band, yet again, from that Warsong rep, you just need to get honored for that 4 strength, 4 agility, 2 stamina. And then Rune of Perfection, that's going to be a pretty good one. You just need to be friendly, and that's an easy 4 stamina. And decreases the magical resistances of your spell targets by 10. Not really going to affect you as a feral tank, but that 4 stamina is nice. And then if you want a challenge, you can go farm Arena Grandmaster for that extra dodge chance and that nice bubble. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun going over the Druid runes and gear. I felt like it was like one of the classes where I had to really dive in and look at a ton of different gear and see what was worth it and what wasn't. Look at these talents, because early on their talent trees are very, very poor in my opinion. Like, it's very hard to like benefit a feral DPS spec at level 25 with those talents, but I think we did a good job at it. Okay, so here is our mage, and the first build we're going to go over is an arcane DPS build. So for our chest rune, we're going to go with Enlightenment here, simply because this is going to be great for mana regen and dealing a little bit of extra damage. So what Enlightenment does is you deal 10% more damage while you have more than 70% mana, and while below 30% mana, 10% of your mana regeneration continues while casting. So this is going to be really good for Arcane. Arcane is very mana heavy when it comes to DPSing. And then on our legs, we're going to take the Arcane Surge rune. Arcane Surge unleashes all of your remaining mana in a surge of energy focused at the target, dealing 95 to 111 arcane damage, increased by up to 300% based on your mana remaining. Afterward, your normal mana regenerated is activated and increased by 300%. So basically, Arcane Surge and Enlightenment are going to play off of each other. We're going to get a ton of mana regen, you know, getting back up to 75 or even 100% mana, and then blasting with Arcane Surge again. And then, of course, on our hands, we're going to take Arcane Blast. Blast the target with energy, dealing 190 to 221 arcane damage. Each time you cast Arcane Blast, the damage and healing of all other arcane spells is increased increased by 15%, and the mana cost of Arcane Blast is increased by 175%. Effect stacks up to 4 times and lasts 6 seconds or until other arcane damage or healing spell is cast. So basically you're going to use Arcane Blast as your normal damaging ability. Instead of like Fireball or Frostbolt, you're going to Arcane Blast and then unleash all of your mana with Arcane Surge. It's going to do a ton of damage, so be ready for that. Okay, so let's move on to our talents. We're going to put 4 points in Improved Arcane Missiles to give us an 80% chance to avoid interruption caused by damage while channeling Arcane Missiles. 5 points in Arcane Focus, reduce the chance that the opponent can resist your arcane spells by 10%. 2 points in Arcane Subtlety, which reduces your target's resistances to all of your spells by 10 and reduces the threat caused by your arcane spells by 40. And then we have 5 points in Arcane Concentration, which gives you a 10% chance to enter a clear casting state after any damage spell hits a target. The clear casting state reduces the mana cost of your next damaging spell by 100%. So obviously we need that for going Arcane DPS. We're going to be blasting through our mana pretty quickly. Now quickly, let's glance over at some gear. We're going to be using maybe our Bright Eye Goggles from Engineering, Spectral Necklace of the Owl. If we can pick one of these up, that would be great. Anything with Intel and Spirit on it for this build will do pretty well, so we're going to kind of do a mixture of Arcane Wrath pieces for some spell damage and Owl pieces for some mana regen and intellect. For our shoulders, we have the Feline Mantle, 10 Intel, 3 Spirit, 2 Agility out of Shadowfang Keep. For our cape, we're going to go with an Arcane Wrath cape. Anything you can get your hands on would be nice here. This is going to give you some spell damage towards arcane damage. Robes of Aragul, really nice piece here for your chest. You can farm this in Shadowfang Keep. 10 Spirit, 9 Intel, 5 Stamina, 3 Agility. So that's going to be really good. That 10 Spirit's really going to help with our mana regeneration. And then for our bracers and staff, we're going to go with Arcane Wrath pieces again. We have durable bracers of Arcane Wrath, but again, anything you can pick up of Arcane Wrath would work in this slot. And same goes for our weapon. We want a little bit of arcane damage. I would say 40 to 60 arcane spell damage would do really well with this spec, and then a mixture of owl pieces thrown in there for some intel and spirit. So on our hands, we got Raincaller Mitts of the Owl for some intel and spirit here. The Belt of Aragul, again, another Shadowfang Keep item, which would do really well here. 10 intellect, 3 spirit, 2 agility. Watcher's Leggings of the Owl. Any owl pieces, again, for your leg slot. Intellect and spirit is going to be big here. You're going to get more mana. You're going to have more mana regen. And then Spider Silk boots, obviously, are your best in slot boots. If you become a tailor, you can craft your own. If not, you can buy them on the auction house or have another tailor craft them for you. They're not that hard to get the mats for to craft, so I would suggest going for these boots. You're going to get 7 spirit, 4 intellect, 4 stamina here. And then we have Lore Keeper's Ring, which you're going to acquire by getting honored with Silverwing Sentinels or Warsong Outriders. This is 2 stamina, 5 spell damage, and 2 MP5. Simply cannot pass that up. And then if you are Alliance, you can easily farm the Lavishly Jeweled Ring from Deadmines or even Seal of Rin. I have a feeling people are going to be doing this. And if you're not Alliance, you can pick up an Azora's Will or even just any Ring of the Owl on the auction house if there are any. So that's what I would do there. And then as for trinkets, these trinkets won't increase your DPS at all, so I just put Arena Grandmaster and Goblin Jumper cables. As for a wand, we have Cookie Stirring Wand, but any wand will do. You're going to want to probably go with an Arcane Wand to kind of synergize with your spec a little bit better. So let's move on to the Healing Mage. So as for the Healing Mage, our gear is going to stay relatively exactly the same as our DPS spec because we're going to be damaging to do healing with arcane damage. So kind of use pretty much the same gear you would use for the arcane DPS spec. The only difference here is going to be in our talents. So for our chest rune, we're going to take regeneration, heals the target for 485 over 3 seconds, and applies a temporal beacon for 30 seconds. Records the subject's space-time position. 100% of all arcane damage done by the caster will be converted to chronomantic healing and divided among the caster's current temporal beacon targets. So you're going to want to take regeneration there. That's going to be more of like a single target heal. And then mass regeneration, which is basically a mass heal, basically an AoE heal of all targets within 15 yards with the exact same thing. It's going to place a temporal beacon on each target that gets hit with mass regeneration, and then as you deal arcane damage, it's going to pop and heal them for that. And then on our hand rune here, we are going to also go with Arcane Blast yet again, so that we're constantly doing arcane damage. You also could get Rewind Time, and what this does is your current target with temporal beacon instantly heals all damage taken over the last 5 seconds, ineffective on targets that did not have a temporal beacon. So basically this would be used like, let's say if you're going for more of a healing spec, like just straight up healing, this would be really good because you can kind of place this on your tank before they're about to take a ton of damage, right? They take all that damage in a few seconds, and then bam, you rewind time, they're back to full health. So that would work there, but I still here would go with Arcane Blast to have a consistent arcane damaging spell. I mean, we are going to be using improved arcane missiles as well, but either way, Arcane Blast or Rewind Time could work in this spot. And then again, the spec is exactly the same as the DPS spec. You're going to put 2 points in Arcane Subtlety, 5 points in Arcane Focused, 4 points in Improved Arcane Missiles, and 5 points in Arcane Concentration. So let's move on to our Fire Mage. So for our Fire Mage, on our chest, we're going to pick up Burnout, but you also could pick up Enlightenment if you're having mana issues, and it might actually be a slight DPS increase if you're not running out of mana to take Enlightenment. But Burnout is what we're going to take here. Increases your spell critical strike chance with all spells by 15%, but your non-periodic spell critical strikes now have an additional mana cost of 1% of your base mana. And then for our Leg Rune, 2 choices here. We could take Living Flame, summons a Spellfire Flame that moves toward the target, leaving a trail of fire. This trail deals 42 Spellfire damage every second to nearby enemies. This would be really good when you're farming packs of mobs, but obviously on single target fights, you might want to swap out to Icy Veins, like when you're fighting bosses and things like that. Hastens your spellcasting, increasing spellcasting speed by 20% and reduces the pushback suffered for damaging attacks while casting by 100%. This is just a massive DPS cooldown. You're going to get a ton of haste from this. So honestly, on boss fights, I would suggest Icy Veins. When you're clearing trash, you can go Living Flame. Living Flame would definitely be better on those like big AoE pulls. You can kind of cast Living Flame and then Flame Strike or Blizzard, whatever you want to do, Arcane Explosion. But Icy Veins will be better for boss fights. As for your Hand Rune, we're going to go with Living Bomb. Clearly here, this is the winner. The target becomes a Living Bomb, taking 142 fire damage over 12 seconds. After 12 seconds, or when the spell is dispelled, the target explodes, dealing 72 fire damage to all enemies within 10 yards. This is going to be a nice dot to put on bosses for single target, and also while clearing trash, just Living Bomb on everything. Spellfire Flame, Flame Strike, Blizzard, Arcane Explosion. Like your AoE damage is going to be absolutely off the charts, so you want to take Living Bomb here. And then as for our talents, we put 5 points in Improved Fireball, reduces the cast time of your fireball by 0.5 seconds. 5 points in Ignite. Your critical strikes from fire damage spells cause the target to burn for an additional 40% over your spell damage for 4 seconds, and that's going to kind of play with Burnout. You're going to be critting a lot more having Burnout, so Ignite is going to be a lot of your DPS. 2 points in Incinerate, increase the critical strike chance of your Fire Blast and Scorch spells by 4%. 3 points in Improved Flame Strike for increased critical strike chance of Flame Strike by 15%. So 15%, that's 30%. That's going to be pretty big. And then obviously you're going to open with Pyroblast on bosses. You know, when that countdown comes up, you're going to start casting this at the 6-second mark so that it goes off when the timer hits 0. And your damage is going to be really high as Fire Mage. The only thing here is we have no threat reduction in the fire tree at this level. So you may be pulling aggro, so you may need to cool it a little bit, but no pun intended, by the way. But yeah, fire is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to play fire on my mage. And then again, our gear is going to be similar to the arcane sets, except we're going to swap out those arcane wrath pieces for fiery wrath pieces. Again, you want to get to around 40, anywhere between 40 to 60 fire spell damage, and then fill out the other pieces with intel and spirit pieces so that you can kind of, you know, have a good balance of mana, MP5, and spell damage at this level. The Phoenix Pants are a good one to point out. These are really nice for Fire Mage. At this level, you're going to get 4 intellect and 10 fire spell damage, so you can pick those up as well. And then obviously all the other pieces, exactly the same thing as the other specs. So let's move on to our Frost spec. Okay, so for Frost, our chest rune, no brainer here, we're taking Fingers of Frost. Gives your chill effects a 15% chance to grant you Fingers of Frost, which treats your next 2 spell cast as if the target were frozen. So we want to grab Fingers of Frost. Leg Rune, we're going to take Icy Veins, of course. Hastens your spellcasting again. This is another massive DPS cooldown. We want to grab Icy Veins, and then, yeah, last but not least, how are we not going to take Ice Lance? When you have Fingers of Frost, just blasting Ice Lance, it does a ton of damage. Deals 23 to 27 frost damage to an enemy target, causes triple damage against frozen targets, and that's going to coincide with Fingers of Frost because it treats your effects as if they were frozen when they have a chill effect on them. As for our talents here, we're going to put 5 in Improved Frostbolt, 0.5 seconds taken off the casting time there, and then 3 in Elemental Precision, which basically gives you a 6% hit on your fire and frost spells. And then we're going to go with 5 points in ice shards. Increase the critical strike damage bonus of your frost spells by 100%. So you're hurling ice lances with Fingers of Frost up. They're doing triple damage. If that crits, it's now going to do 100% more critical damage. It's going to be insane. Your damage is going to be off the charts. And then we're going to take Cold Snap, obviously, to reset the cooldown on Icy Vein, so we can use it twice. And then 2 points in Piercing Ice to get 4% extra damage on our frost spells. As for our gear, going to be the same thing as the other specs. Really, the trend here at this level is going to be to kind of get a good mixture of spell damage and intel and spirit, so you're not running out of mana and you have a ton of mana. So basically, yeah, we have Icicle Rod as our weapon here, which is a nice staff, pretty easily obtained for intellect. You can get it enchanted with 7 frost damage, and then you can get 10 extra spell damage for frost on this staff, so that's a really good one. And then again, Azure Silk Pants. Nice pants, 6 intel. We're going to get 10 frost spell damage from those as well. And then all the other pieces are pretty much exactly the same. Anything that obviously isn't Frozen Wrath, but was like Arcane Wrath or Fiery Wrath, swap those out for Frozen pieces, and you should be good to go. Okay, so starting off with our Shadow Priest, we're going to take a look at our chest rune, and the only choice here that's going to make any sense for PvE DPS is going to be Twisted Faith, which gives Mind Flame, Mind Blast, deal 20% increased damage to targets afflicted with Shadow Word Pain, and that's going to play into another rune that we're going to be using later on. The only other one here that might make sense is Void Plague. Afflicts the target with a disease that causes 116 shadow damage over 18 seconds, but the DPS increase from this to this is pretty big, so Twisted Fate is going to be the better choice here. And then on our legs, we're going to pick up Shared Pain. Your Shadow Word Pain now also afflicts up to 2 additional nearby targets within 15 yards. So basically, this is going to be on Trash. You're going to be using Shadow Word Pain. You're basically going to cast Shadow Word Pain once, and it's going to cleave onto a couple of other enemies, or you can use Homunculi for more single target. You would be using this probably on bosses, but Shared Pain would be the correct choice here. And then for our hand rune, yes, of course, we're taking Mind Seer. Causes an explosion of shadow magic around the enemy target, causing 35 to 39 shadow damage every 1 second for 5 seconds to all enemies within 10 yards around that target. So we're going to take Mind Seer here. Shadow Word Death is more of a PvP ability. It's kind of like an execute. So Mind Seer is going to actually increase our DPS here. Again, you could argue that taking Shadow Word Death would be better for single targets, but again, just for generalized building, we're going to take Mind Seer. You could also switch out to this on boss fights to use that as kind of like an execute, but that's completely up to you, or even just throw it in your rotation as another burst damage. As for talents, we're going to take 5 points into Spirit Tap. Gives you a 100% chance to gain 100% bonus to your spirit after killing a target that yields experience for the duration. Your mana will regenerate at 50% rate while casting. Lasts 15 seconds. Now, you may not be getting the killing blow all the time here, but honestly, Blackout is more of a PvP ability anyways, so getting that stun on targets that you're damaging wouldn't really make sense in Raid, so Spirit Tap is the better ability here. And then we're going to put 3 points in Shadow Affinity. Reduces the threat generated by your shadow spells by 25%. 2 points in Shadow Word Pain improved. We're going to increase the duration of your Shadow Word Pain by 6 seconds, so Shared Pain and improved Shadow Word Pain are going to do a good amount of damage for us. And then 4 points in Shadow Focus. Reduces the target's chance to resist your shadow spells by 8%. So you're basically getting 8% hit at level 25 with this. And then we take Mind Flay, assault the target's mind with shadow energy, causing 75 shadow damage over 3 seconds and slowing their movement speed by 50%. And that leaves us with 1 point left, and I threw it into Shadow Weaving. Your shadow damage spells have a 20% chance to cause the target to be vulnerable to shadow damage. This vulnerability increases the shadow damage dealt to your target by 3% and lasts 15 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So you can do some different things here. If we're running out of mana, you may want to go over into Discipline and go Wand spec. Not really sure how this is going to play out. This may change once it's out and once we start clearing this raid, but as for right now, this would be the build you want to run. So let's go check out some gear. As for gear, we have the Bright Eye Goggles from Engineering, 9 Spirit, 9 Stam, and then on our neck, we can pick up any neck piece of the Owl if we can get our hands on it. If we can't, then we can always pick up the Sentinel's Medallion just for 2 stamina from the Warsong Rep Honored. However, picking up something of the Owl would be best in slot here to get some intel and spirit. And then for shoulders, back piece, chest piece, bracers, and your weapon, pick up anything you can of Shadow Wrath to kind of get in the realm of having anywhere between 60 to 80 shadow damage. As you can see down here, getting that amount of shadow damage will be pretty good. It's going to help your DPS quite a bit. And then we're going to weave in some other pieces that have some spirit and intel on them. But I do think Shadow Priests are going to have mana issues this early on, but I guess we have to wait and see how fast things die. For our gloves, we have Hands of Darkness. These are a tailor-crafted item that will give you 9 shadow damage and 5 spirit. For our belt, we got Belt of Aragul from Shadowfang Keep. You're going to get 10 intel, 3 spirit, 2 agility from this. We have the Silver Thread Pants, which are going to give you 8 intellect, 4 spirit, 4 stamina. The Spider Silk Boots, 7 spirit, 4 intellect, 4 stamina. The Lore Keeper's Ring, which is great, and you can get it from Honored with Warsong Rep. This is going to give you 2 stamina, 5 spell damage, and 2 MP5. Should help with those mana issues a little bit. You could pick up the Lavishly Jeweled Ring from Dead Mines. You could definitely try and farm this out. You're going to get 6 intel, 2 agility from that. If you can't grab that, pick up something else like an Azora's Will for 5 intellect, which is very similar, or even Seal of Rin, which I do think people are going to be doing. You can get Seal of Rin. It's going to give you 4 stam, 3 spirit, 3 agility, 3 strength, and 4 intellect. So this is another good piece, and people will be doing this. And then as for trinkets, none of these trinkets are going to increase your DPS. And then for wands, I just put Cookie's Stirring Wand here. But if we do have to go wand spec, maybe trying to pick up something like a world drop, like Dire Wand would do the trick as well. But Cookie's Stirring Wand would definitely be the best in slot wand here. So let's move on to our healing spec. As for healing, on our chest rune, we're going to take Serendipity. Healing with Flash Heal reduces the cast time of your next lesser heal, greater heal, or prayer of healing by 20% for 20 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So that's pretty huge. You're going to want to take Serendipity. No questions asked there. I mean, the only other one here would be Strength of Soul, but this would be more of a PvP focused rune. I would take Serendipity here. And then the leg rune, obviously we want to take Prayer of Mending. Power Word Barrier simply isn't that good, and it's not that strong. It may get some tweaking later on to make it useful, but Prayer of Mending is a no-brainer right here. Places a spell on the target that heals them for 150 the next time they take damage or receive healing. When the heal occurs, Prayer of Mending jumps to a party member or raid member within 20 yards, jumps up to 5 times and lasts 30 seconds after each jump. This spell can only be placed on one target at a time. So you want to take Prayer of Mending on your leg rune. And then for our hand rune, we have Circle of Healing. Heals all of target players, party members within 15 yards of target player for 82 to 92 damage. This is going to be a great AoE heal for priests if you're on raid healing, so there's really no other choice here. Penance, again, is more of a single target like tank healing ability or PvP based, really. So Circle of Healing would be good for raiding. Now, jumping into some of our talents, we put 5 points in Holy Specialization, increase the critical strike chance of your holy spells by 5%, 2 points into Healing Focus gives you a 70% chance to avoid interruption caused while casting any healing spell, and then we have Divine Fury, reduces the casting time of your Smite, Holy Fire, Heal, and Greater Heal by 0.5 seconds, 3 points in Inspiration, increase your target's armor by 25% for 15 seconds after getting a critical effect from your Flash Heal, Greater Heal, and Prayer of Healing spell, and then I put 1 point in Improved Healing to reduce the mana cost of your Lesser Heal, and Greater Heal by 5%. So let's take a look at some gear. As for our gear for healing, we're going to go with the Bright Eye Goggles from Engineering. You're going to get 9 Spirit, 9 Stam from those. Again, a neck piece of the Owl, if you can get your hands on one. And for our shoulders, we have Magician's Mantle, but you can also pick up Feline Mantle, which is 10 Intel, 3 Spirit, 2 Agility from Shadowfang Keep. Magician's Mantle might be pretty expensive because it is a BOE World drop. So we're going to go with Feline Mantle there. And then as for our cape slot, we're going to go with Banded Cloak of Healing or anything of healing in this slot to get 13 additional healing. That would be pretty nice. Robes of Aragul, we're going to get 10 Spirit, 9 Intel, 5 Stamina, 3 Agility on there with 2 stats enchanted on it. Durable Bracers of Healing for another 13 healing, and then we can enchant those with 7 Spirit. Staff of the Blessed Seer. So this is another world drop. It might be pretty pricey, but you would get 24 additional healing from this, 3 Spirit and 2 Stamina. If you don't have that and you don't want to spend the money and your alliance, you can go for Staff of Westfall, which is 11 Spirit, 5 Intel, which is really nice. Or you can go for the Revered Staff from your Warsong rep and get 9 Stam, 5 Intel, 3 MP5, or even the Emberstone Staff would do the trick here. As for our gloves, we have True Faith gloves. These are another tailor-crafted gloves that are going to give you 15 to plus healing and 3 intellect. Durable Belt of Healing gives you 18 healing. And then our pants, we have Ivy Cloth Pants of Healing for another 24 healing. And then as for our boots, we go with Spider Silk boots. Obviously, that's 7 spirit, 4 intel, 4 stamina, 3 spirit enchanted on there. And then the Lore Keeper's ring, again, from being honored with your Warsong rep. That's going to give you 2 stam, 5 healing, and 2 MP5. And then for our ring here, we can go with the Queen's Jewel, but I don't think this is going to be plentiful, as this is a 25 BOE world drop. So we can go with the Deep Fathom ring from Wailing Caverns, which is 6 spirit, 3 stam, 3 intellect if you're Horde, or if you're Alliance, you can go for the Lavishly Jeweled ring or Seal of Rin. And then as for trinkets, again, nothing here to increase your healing at all, and then we just picked up Cookie's Stirring Wand. Okay, so first up on our list here, we have the Enhancement Shaman DPS build. With our chest rune, we're going to go with dual wield specialization. Obviously, increase your chance to hit with both spells and melee attacks by 5% while dual wielding, and your Storm Strike ability now hits both weapons while dual wielding. So we're going to take dual wield specialization. Leg rune, we're going to be going with Shamanistic Rage. Reduce all damage you take by 20%, and you regenerate mana every second for 15 seconds. This is going to be how we never go anyone who's played Enhancement Shaman in TBC is going to really understand how this works. And for your hand rune, obviously Lava Lash is our best choice here. You charge your offhand weapon with lava, instantly dealing 100% offhand damage. Damage is increased by 20% if your offhand weapon is enchanted with Flame Tongue, which we know it will be. And then moving on to our talents, we put 5 points in Ancestral Knowledge to increase our maximum mana by 5%, 5 points in Thundering Strikes to get an extra 5% crit chance on all weapon attacks, 2 points in Improved Ghost Wolf, which we won't really be using in the raid, but we do need to get down to the next set of talents here, 1 point in Improved Lightning Shield, 2 points in Enhancing Totems. Increase the effect of your Strength of Earth and Grace of Air totems by 15%. And then our last point, we're going to put in Flurry so we can get those Flurry procs. Increase your attack speed by 10% for your next 3 swings after dealing a critical strike. Moving on to our gear for Enhancement Shaman, we have the Bright Eye Engineering Goggles, which are going to be probably your best in slot headpiece here that you can acquire from Engineering. Our neck piece, we have the Scout's Medallion, which you're going to obtain by getting honored with Warsong Outriders. That's 6 agility, 2 stamina on that. The Bristlebark Amis shoulder pads, which are 6 agility, 3 strength. These are going to be your absolute highest DPS shoulders in this slot at this level. And then we have the Glowing Lizard Scale Cloak. The Glowing Lizard Scale Cloak is going to give you 6 agility, 2 spirit, 3 agility enchanted on it when you can get this from Scum in Wailing Caverns, so it's going to be super easy to be able to farm that. And then as for our chest piece, I have the Panther Armor here from the Stone Talon Mountains quest. You're going to get 9 agility and 2 strength from that, and you can enchant that with +2 to all stats. For bracers, we have Loam Flake Bracers. These are from the Thousand Needles quest. They give you 5 agility, and then you can enchant them with 5 strength to give you 5 strength, 5 agility on your bracers. If you can't get your hands on these, anything close to those stats will do. Just go for agility/strength at this level. And then for our weapons, we have the Mighty Iron Hammer, which is a blacksmith crafted hammer. This is a main hand 2.8 with 5 strength on it. You can enchant this with +3 weapon damage. And then a good offhand would be Stinging Viper, another 2.8. You want them the same speed so they synergize with Flurry really well. And this is going to be a chance on hit to poison the target for 7 nature damage every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. So these would be 2 really good weapons to go into the raid with. And then as for our gloves, we have Toughened Leather Gloves, a leatherworking item, 6 agility, 6 spirit, 3 stamina. You can enchant those with 5 strength. If you could find something close or similar to those stats, that would work as well. Again, this is not set in stone. This is just what I would do. If I was able to get my hands on these gloves, they would be the best for me. But again, take this all with a grain of salt, guys. If you can get gear with close to the same stats, it's level 25. You're going to do just fine. As for our belt, we have the Deathskin Belt in Ashenvale. This is from a quest there. This is going to give you 4 agility, 3 stamina, 12 attack power. And then Leggings of the Fang, which are going to drop off Lord Cobran in Wailing Caverns. These are huge. 5 strength, 4 stam, 9 agility. There's really no better legs to use at this level than these. You could argue that Trollbane's legs would maybe be better, but those are going to be expensive, and you don't get the strength, so I think these are pretty similar when it comes to raw DPS output. Trip Runner Dungarees are absolutely great, but I'm not sure how easy it's going to be for people to clear Gnomeregan at level 25. I'm sure some people are going to do it, but for most people, Leggings of the Fang are going to be the best in slot leg piece. As for our boots, we can grab Warsong boots, which are from Warsong Supplies in Ashenvale. 8 agility, 6 stamina, massive boots there. There's going to be a good DPS coming off of those. And then we have rings. We have Silverlane's Family Seal, 7 strength, 3 stamina, which drops in Shadowfang Keep. And then the Legionnaire's Band, which will require you to get honored with Warsong Outriders. And we're going to be doing a lot of Warsong Gulch and open world PvP in Ashenvale, so this is going to be pretty easy to come by. As for trinkets, we have Rune of Perfection, which gives you 4 stamina, and Arena Grandmaster. These aren't going to increase your DPS at all, so don't worry about those if you can't get your hands on them. But let's move on to the Shaman tank. Okay, so for our tanking Shaman, our beloved tanking Shaman, for our chest rune, we're going to grab Shield Mastery. Each time you block, you regenerate mana equal to 4% of your maximum mana, and you gain armor equal to 30% of your shield's armor value, stacking up to 5 times. You also always gain 10% increased chance to block and 15% increased block value. So no brainer here. We're taking Shield Mastery, and our leg rune, Way of Earth, is our tanking rune. While Rockbiter weapon is active on your main hand, you deal 100% increased threat, gain 30% increased health, take 10% reduced damage, and gain 6% reduced chance to be critically hit by melee attacks, and Earth Shock taunts the target to attack you and has a separate cooldown from other shock spells, but has its range reduced to melee. So clearly, Way of Earth is our tanking rune here. And then hand rune, we're going to pick up Molten Blast. Blast enemies in a cone in front of you for 39 to 54 fire damage. This ability generates a high amount of threat. Flame Shock periodic damage has a 10% chance to reset the cooldown on Molten Blast. So this is going to be our cleave, and it generates a ton of threat. So we're going to be spamming this on cooldown, and Flame Shock has a chance to reset the cooldown of Molten Blast, so you're going to be using it quite often. As for our talents, we put 5 points in shield specialization to increase our chance to block attacks with a shield by 5% and increase the amount blocked by 25. 5% in Thundering Strikes to get 5% extra crit, 5 points in Anticipation to get 5% extra dodge, and then obviously 1 point in Flurry. This is just going to be proccing and increasing our attack speed, helping us generate threat and do a little bit more damage. Let's move on to the gear. So for our gear, a little bit different than our DPS enhancement Shaman gear. We have obviously the Bright Eye Goggles, still the best in slot. Scout's Medallion, still the best in slot. Mantle of Thieves. This is a BOE drop from Razorfen Crawl. Not sure how much this is going to be out in the world or available to purchase, but I would go with anything with stamina and agility on them, or just straight up stamina. So for the purposes of this build, we're going to select the Earthen Shoulders right here. Those are crafted by leatherworkers, so they should be pretty plentiful. And then the Spritekin Cloak, which is 4 agility, 3 stamina. This is from Stone Talon Mountains from a quest there. And then if you guys can get yourselves over to Deadmines, Black and Defias armor would be huge here. You're getting 11 stamina, 3 agility, 4 strength. Drops off Van Cleef. Not sure how much you're going to be over there doing Deadmines, but if you can get your hands on this, it would be awesome. If you can't, you can go do the Brawnhide Armor quest in Thousand Needles. I'm sure it'll be possible. Or grab the Bristlebark Blouse off the auction house. Moving on down to our bracers, we have the Black Wolf Bracers, which give you 5 stamina, and then we're going to enchant those with another 5 stamina. Any bracers with stamina on them like this would be great as well. You can get the Bear Bracers off vendors. You can get the Wolf Bracers, which give you 2 stamina, 4 agility. Just make sure you get that stamina enchant down there for that extra health. Moving on down to our weapon, we have the Windstorm Hammer, which is from a Thousand Needles quest. If you can't get your hands on this, the Mighty Iron Hammer, which is crafted by blacksmiths, will do the trick just fine. And then for our shield, we're going to pick up Clink Shield. You can get this from a Thousand Needle quest as well. And this is going to be probably one of the best shields you can rock at this time. It's going to be 545 armor, 10 block, 4 stamina, 2 agility, 3 strength. Really nice stats on this shield, so I would try and get your hands on that. If you can't, there's plenty of other shields that you can choose from. Just go for something with either stamina, strength, agility on it. And then onto our gloves, we have Toughened Leather Gloves. These are crafted by leather workers. 6 agility, 6 spirit, 3 stamina. These would be the absolute best in slot. If you can't get them, just grab anything with similar stats. And then we have our Deathskin Belt again. Leggings of the Fang, Warsong boots. The rest is all similar to the DPS build. And then our trinkets here actually will affect our tanking, right? We're going to get stamina from the Rune of Perfection, and if you can get your hands on Arena Grandmaster and farm this out if you like a challenge, definitely pick that up. That extra dodge chance will seriously help, and the 4 stamina from Rune of Perfection will be great as well. So let's move on to our Elemental Shaman. Okay, moving on to our Elemental Shaman. For our chest rune, we're going to pick up Overload. Gives your Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Chain Heal, Healing Wave, and Lava Burst spells a 33% chance to cast a second similar spell on the same target at no additional cost that causes half the damage or healing and no threat. So we're going to pick up Overload. Our leg rune here, we're going to pick up Shamanistic Rage again so that we're constantly regenerating mana every time we pop this ability. This is what's going to keep us from going And then on our hands, we're obviously going to pick up Lava Burst. You hurl a molten lava at the target, dealing 198 to 256 fire damage. If your Flame Shock is on the target, Lava Burst will deal a critical strike, which your Flame Shock should always be up on the target, so Lava Burst is always a guaranteed crit. Moving on to our talents, we put 5 points in Concussion, increase the damage done by our Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, and Shock spells by 5%, 2 points into Convection to reduce the mana cost of our Shock, Lightning Bolt, and Chain Lightning spells by 4%, 3 points into Call of Flame, increase the damage done by your fire totems by 15%. 5 points in Call of Thunder to increase the critical strike chance of our Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning spells by an additional 6%, and then 1 point in Elemental Focus. Gives you a 10% chance to enter a clear casting state after casting any Fire, Frost, or Nature damage spell. The clear casting state reduces the mana cost of your next damaging spell by 100%. So let's move on to our gear. For our gear here, we have the Bright Eye Engineering Goggles again, the Scout's Medallion for that 2 stamina, the Feline Mantle from Shadowfang Keep, 10 Intellect, 3 Spirit, 2 Agility. We have the Soft Willow Cape, 5 Intellect on there. The Robes of Aragul, 10 Spirit, 9 Intellect, 5 Stamina, 3 Agility. Our bracers, we have the Feather Bead Bracers. These bracers are from Ragefire Chasm, so they are pretty weak. But I kind of set this up so that you guys didn't have to use world drops. So if you find anything in the world or want to purchase anything in the world that has better stats than 3 intellect, you can go ahead and throw that on. But if you want to do this completely free without spending a single gold and you had no luck on drops, these would be the bracers for you. The Emberstone Staff is great if you want to farm that in Dead Mines. You're getting 5 Spirit, 5 Stam, 8 Intellect, but a close second and easier for Horde, obviously, would be the Crescent Staff from the Leaders of the Fang quest in Wailing Caverns. You're going to get 7 Intel, 7 Spirit, 7 Stamina, so I'd suggest going for that. And then as for our gloves, we have the Shredder Operating Gloves from the quest in Ashenvale. These are 6 Intel, 5 Stam, 2 Agility. Great gloves right there. The Belt of Aragul from Shadowfang Keep, 10 Intel, 3 Spirit, 2 Agility. Azure Silk Pants, 6 Intellect, and increases your Frost damage by 10, which will increase your Frost Shock, which is basically what you're going to be using outside of keeping Flame Shock up. And then we have Spider Silk Boots, which are tailor-crafted boots, 7 Spirit, 4 Intel, 4 Stamina, and then Advisor's Ring, which you could pick up from Honored with Warsong Outriders. Going to give you 2 Stamina, 5 Spell Damage, and 2 MP5. The Lavishly Jeweled Ring from Dead Mines is great, 2 Agility, 6 Intellect, but you can also pick up, obviously, the Deep Fathom Ring, since you're Horde, 6 Spirit, 3 Stam, 3 Intel, and it'll be much easier to grab. And then, obviously, for trinkets, nothing here is going to increase your elemental DPS. So let's move on to the rest of Shaman. So for our chest room, we're going to pick up Healing Rain. Selects the area 15 yards around the target player and heals all of target player's party members within that area for 20 seconds. Obviously, we're going to pick that up. On our legs, we're going to grab Earth Shield. This is going to put a shield on the target, protects the target with an earthen shield, reducing casting or channeling time lost when damaged by 30% and causing attacks to heal the shielded target by 100. This effect can only occur once every few seconds, and it has 3 charges. We can go with Earth Shield here if we're on tank healing. If we're running low on mana and we're raid healing and we're going we could pick up Shamanistic Rage to kind of have some form of a mana regen cooldown. That's completely up to you, but we'll select Earth Shield for the purposes of this build. And then on our hands, we're going to grab Water Shield. The caster is surrounded by 3 globes of water, granting 1% of your maximum mana per 5. When a spell, melee, or ranged attack hits the caster, 4% of the mana restored to the caster. This expends a water globe, and obviously there's 3, so this will be good for regenning mana, so that should help you out as well. But like I said, if you're having more mana issues, you want to go with Shamanistic Rage in your leg slot. As for your talents, we put 5 points in Improved Healing Wave, reduce the cast time of your Healing Wave by 0.5 seconds, 3 points in Tidal Focus to reduce the mana cost of your healing spells by 3%, 3 points in Ancestral Healing, increase the target's armor value by 25% for 15 seconds after getting a critical effect from one of your healing spells. 1 point in Totemic Mastery, which increases the radius of your totems that affect friendly targets by 30 yards. 3 points in Healing Grace to reduce our threat generated by healing spells by 15%. And then 1 point in Tidal Mastery, increase the critical strike chance of your healing and lightning spells by 1%. So let's take a look at our gear. As for our gear, very similar to our elemental gear with a few minor tweaks. We have the same headpiece, the same neck piece, the same shoulders, but as for our cape, we're going to be using the Battle Healer's Cloak. As you get this from Honored with Warsong Outriders, gives you 4 stamina, 2 spirit, increases your healing done by spells and effects by up to 9, so that's going to be your best in slot cape there. The Robes of Aragul are simply beautiful here. You're going to get a ton of spirit, ton of intel, good amount of stamina from these. The Feather Bead Bracers, again, which are from Ragefire Chasm, but you can find something with similar stats cheap on the auction house. The Advisor's Gnarled Staff, which you can get from being revered with Warsong Gulch rep. This is going to give you 9 stam, 5 intel, and 3 MP5, so I'd suggest going for that over the Wailing Caverns staff for healing, but both would do the trick at this level. True Faith Gloves, which are crafted by tailors, and these give you 3 intel and 15 plus to your healing. Belt of Aragul, 10 Intel, 3 Spirit, 2 Agility. Azor Silk Pants again for that 6 Intellect, but honestly, I would sub these out for something of the Owl to get some Spirit there. And then Spider Silk Boots from Tailors, 7 Spirit, 4 Intellect, 4 Stamina. And then the Advisor's Ring, again, which comes from Warsong Outriders Honored. It's going to give you 5 spell damage and healing, 2 Stamina, and 2 MP5. We can also pick up the Totemic Clan Ring from the quest in the Barrens, which is going to give you 3 Intellect, 3 Spirit. But if you can't get your hands on that, obviously Deep Fathom Ring would be better. So I'd say going for that if possible. And then Rune of Perfection for 4 Stamina, Arena Grandmaster for that extra dodge chance. But don't worry about the trinkets. These won't affect your healing by much. Okay, so let's start off with our Beast Mastery Hunter. First things first, we're going to go over to our chest rune and we're going to pick up Cobra Strikes. Your critical hits with shot abilities cause your pet's next 2 special attacks to critically hit. That's going to be our best in-slot chest rune for Beast Mastery. Our leg rune, you guessed it, we're going to take Kill Command. Gives the command to kill, increasing your pet's damage from special attacks by 60% for 30 seconds. Each special attack done by the pet reduces the damage bonus by 20%. Obviously the best leg rune right here. And then you guessed it, hand rune, we're going with Beast Mastery. Your pet's damage and health are increased by 30% and its focus regeneration by 80%. In addition, your pet's growl now also taunts the target to attack it for 3 seconds. So those would be our runes for Beast Mastery Hunter. Moving on to our talents, we're going to put 5 points into Improved Aspect of the Hawk, which will give our ranged attacks a 5% chance of increasing our ranged attack speed by 30% for 12 seconds. This procs quite a bit and will be a huge DPS increase. Next, we're going to put 3 points into Endurance Training for 9% health increase on our pet, 2 points into Revive Pet to reduce the mana cost and cast time of Revive Pet, 5 points into Unleash Fury to increase the damage by our pet by 20%, and then the last point you can throw in Ferocity, which will give our pet an extra 3% chance to crit. Now let's go take a look at some gear. So moving on to our gear, our head slot item would be the Bright Eye Goggles from Engineering, 9 Spirit, 9 Stamina, our Sentinels Medallion neck piece, which will be honored with Silverwing Sentinels or Warsong Outriders, depending on if you're Horde or Alliance. And then for shoulder piece, we can go with the Dark Leather Shoulders. 7 Agility is really good. They're made by leather workers, so there'll be plenty of them around. You can go with the Mantle of Thieves if you get your hands on it. This would be the absolute best shoulder piece. However, those will be pretty expensive. Dark Leather Shoulders should do the trick. Moving on down to our cape, we have Cape of the Brotherhood for 6 agility, 3 stamina with a 3 agility enchant on it. This is a massive cape to have at this level from Deadmines. If you're Horde and you don't want to farm this, you can always go with the glowing Lizard Scale Cloak, which will still give you that 6 agility and 2 spirit. You're just losing that stamina, but that doesn't really increase your DPS at all, so your DPS will be the same whether you're Horde or Alliance when it comes to this cape. If you're Horde, go for the glowing Lizard Scale Cloak, and if you're Alliance, go for Cape of the Brotherhood. As for your chest, Alliance is going to go for Tunic of Westfall with a 5 stam, 11 agility on it. If you can't get this, let's say you're playing Horde, you can just go for one of these of agility chest pieces. You're getting the same amount of agility again, so your DPS is going to be the exact same across both factions. However, you will be losing 5 stamina, but that's okay. That doesn't affect our damage. As for bracers, we went with the Wolf Bracers. These are great because we're getting 2 stamina, 4 agility, 1 agility enchanted on them. So for a total of 5 agility and 2 stamina, these are a really nice set of bracers. If you could pick these up, they're going to be pretty cheap. You can get them from vendors and people resell them on the auction house as well. So I would try and pick those up. And then our weapon, I went with a 2-hander that has 11 agility on it. You can pick any 2-hander with agility. Just get something of agility because this is basically just going to be a stat stick for us in raid regardless. And then for our gloves, we have Pilferer's Gloves, which are 8 agility with 5 agility enchanted on them for a total of 13 agility, math. So those are a really nice set of gloves to pick up. And then Deviate Scale Belt is another big one, 6 stamina, 5 agility, 3 spirit, but you can get more DPS if you go for something that's just straight up agility. Moving on down to our belt, Deviate Scale Belt is great. It's crafted by leather workers, so there's usually plenty of them to go around and they're not too expensive. Leggings of the Fang, again, are going to be really good legs here. You're going to get 9 agility, 4 stamina, 5 strength from those. You could go for the Trip Runner Dungarees, which would be the absolute best legs, but I'm not sure how many people are going to be completing Gnomergun at this level. I mean, if you could get your hands on even Trollbane leggings, those would be the best. But Leggings of the Fang are going to be great if you want a little bit more DPS, but you want to sacrifice that stamina and strength. You can go for any Leggings of Agility. You're going to gain a little bit more agility, but you're going to lose that stamina and strength. It's completely up to you. Moving on down to our boots, we're going to get Pathfinder foot pads of agility, or any of the of agility boots here. You're going to get 8 agility. Basically, it's a feat of the links for hunters because you don't need that 3 strength when you're playing BM or marksman. So yeah, get of the agility boots and get 3 agility enchanted on them. For rings, we got Protector's Band, which is again our Warsong rep ring. You got to get honored with Silverwing Sentinels or Warsong Outriders, depending on your faction. This is going to be a pretty big ring, 4 strength, 4 agility, 2 stamina. So you want to pick that up. And then you can pick up Seal of Rin if you're Alliance. There's going to be people doing this, so I would suggest grabbing that as your second ring. And if you can't, grab any ring of agility in your second slot. Let's say you're Horde, or if you're Alliance and you just haven't done Seal of Rin yet, just get any ring of agility. And then as for trinkets, none of these trinkets will increase your DPS before you step foot into that raid. As for our bow, we're going to go with the Outrunner's Bow, which is revered with Warsong rep for Horde and Alliance. It looks like they've remade it. It's a level 25 bow now. I'm pretty sure it was 18, 28, 38, 48. I could be wrong by that, but they definitely remade it a little bit here. So we're going to go with the Outrunner's Bow. This is a really nice bow. There's not going to be any other DPS bow that's going to be bigger than this at this level. So you want to farm that rep and get the Outrunner's Bow, and then you can put a scope on it to get that +3 damage. Now, all the gear you see here will also be used for our Marksman spec. So let's go take a look at those Marksman talents. Okay, so for our Marksman Hunter, we have our chest rune. We're going to take Master Marksman. There's some argument that Expose Weakness could be a little bit better, but I don't think so. I think having that 5% crit chance and 25% reduced mana cost on all your shots is going to ultimately equate to way more DPS than Expose Weakness. So we're going to go with Master Marksman, but this is going to be something you could test out once it's live. On your leg rune, we obviously want Serpent Spread. Targets hit by your multi-shot are also afflicted by your Serpent Sting. This is huge. There is absolutely no other option that will beat that. And then for our hand rune, you can go with 2 things here. You can go with Chimera Shot or Explosive Shot. I do think Chimera Shot will lead to more damage. You deal 125% weapon damage, refreshing the current sting on your target and triggering an effect. So when we have Serpent Sting up there, it's going to instantly deal another 40% of the damage done by your Serpent Sting. So it's going to kind of blast them for 125%. It's going to blast them for 40% of Serpent Sting's damage, and it will refresh Serpent Sting, so you don't need to waste a global doing that again. Or we can go with Explosive Shot. You fire an explosive charge into the enemy target, dealing 74 to 91 fire damage. The charge will blast the target every second for an additional 2 seconds. Cooldown is shared with Arcane Shot. So let's say we went with Explosive Shot, right? This would be the exact build we use. 5 points in efficiency to lower our mana cost for shots, lethal shots to get another 5% crit, aim shot, and then 5 points in improved aspect of the Hawk, or 5 points in improved Hunter's Mark. It's completely your choice. I really love this talent. I think it is amazing, and I do think this would be a bigger DPS increase than improved Hunter's Mark, but that, again, needs to be tested. If we're going to go with Chimera Shot, what you can also do here is take these 5 points and throw them into improved Arcane Shot, or 4 points into improved Arcane Shot, and then 1 point in Mortal Shots to increase your ranged weapon critical strike damage by 6%. This could also be really good. Completely up to you guys. Or you could take Chimera Shot and keep it the way that I had it, like this. But I do have a feeling that this would actually equate to maybe some more damage. So we got to see how that kind of plays out. But again, as for the gear is going to be the same as for the BM Hunter. So if you want to refer back to that. But right now we're going to move on to the Melee Hunter. All right, so for our Melee Hunter, our chest rune, we're going to take Lone Wolf. You deal 25% increased damage with all attacks while you do not have an active pet. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this is going to be the best way to play Melee Hunter. People are saying it is. I'm a little bit skeptical just because pets do a lot of damage in vanilla. So it may be more worth it to have a pet out and take Cobra Strikes, but we'll just go with Lone Wolf for the purposes of this build. On your leg rune, again, you could take Flanking Strike here, which will give your Mongoose Bite and Raptor Strike a 10% increased damage for 10 seconds. It stacks up to 3 times. And Raptor Strike has a 20% chance to reset the cooldown of Flanking Strike. This is going to be pretty good, but I do still think Serpent Spread is going to be a bigger DPS increase overall. You know, when they start the pull and pull a pack of mobs, you're going to multi-shot. That puts Serpent Sting on everything, and then you can kind of run in there, use Carve, which we're going to talk about next, which is your cleave, and then start meleeing stuff down. So we're going to take that. And then on our hands, we're obviously going to take Carve, a sweeping attack that strikes all enemies in front of you for 50% weapon damage, basically like a Cone of Cold or a Cleave. So that's going to be your melee cleave ability. And then for talents, we put 5 points in deflection for parry chance increased by 5%, 3 points in improved wing clip, 2 points in savage strikes to give your Raptor Strike and Mongoose Bite a 20% boost to critical strike chance. 2 points into Clever Traps to get some extra damage out of Immolation and Explosive Trap, 30% to be exact. 3 points in Survivalist for 6% extra health, and 1 point in Deterrence to have a nice dodge, parry chance, increase cooldown if you ever do need it. So let's move on to the gear for melee hunters. Most of the gear for melee hunters is going to be exactly the same as the other builds. The only difference here is going to be your weapon. In my opinion, you're going to want a nice, slow two-hander, something with a decent top-end damage. Obviously, the absolute best two-hander that you're going to be able to get here would be Gizmotron's Mega Chopper. However, this is extremely expensive usually, but it does give you 14 strength, 5 agility. It's not super slow, but the top-end damage is higher than the slowest green weapon at this level. So this would be the best, in my opinion, the absolute best pre-raid two-hander to go for Melee Hunter. Or you can go with what I was just looking at right there, was Brutal War Axe of Agility, which is going to give you 11 agility. It's going to give you 88 top-end damage, 20.3 DPS on a speed that's 3.6, so it's nice and kind of slow, so you're going to get some big hits out of that. Or we may come to find out that dual wielding is better, which then you can use like daggers, or you can use axes or swords, maybe 2 cruel barbs. It's completely up to you, but I do think that two-handed Melee Hunter will definitely do a little bit more DPS than dual wielding, just because at this level you don't really have any hit rating, so dual wielding you're going to be missing a lot. Okay, so for the rogue tank build, let's go to our runes first. For our chest slot rune, what we're going to be taking here is just a flesh wound. You take 20% reduced physical damage while Blade Dance is active. Additionally, you have a 6% reduced chance to be critically hit by melee attacks, and the threat generated by all of your actions is massively increased. And your feint ability is replaced with Tease, which taunts the target to attack you. So basically, we want to take just a flesh wound. This is what is actually going to make us a tank. It's going to give us a taunt, it's going to make us way tankier, and then we're going to move down to the leg rune, and here is where we're going to take Blade Dance, which is a finishing move that increases your parry chance, lasts longer, and grants more parry chance per combo point. As you guys can see, 1 point gives you 14 seconds and 6% parry, all the way down to 5 points gives you 30 seconds and 10% parry, so this is going to be your finisher, and it's going to buff your parry chance. It's important to note here that rogue tanking is going to be all about dodge and parry, so these abilities are extremely useful. Next, we're going to move down to our hand rune, and this is where we're going to pick up Main Gauche. Instantly strike with your offhand weapon for normal offhand weapon damage and increase your chance to parry by 10% for 10 seconds. And this is important here too. Main Gauche benefits from all talents and effects that trigger or modify Sinister Strike. So now let's move to our talents, right? We're going to be in the combat tree for this. We're going to get 2 points in improved Sinister Strike to reduce the energy cost by 5, and that's going to reduce the energy cost of Main Gauche as well. Next, we're going to move over to Lightning Reflexes, get 3 points in here for 3% extra dodge chance, 5 points in Deflection for increased parry chance by 5%, 5 points in Precision because 5% hit is going to be massive on you at this level, especially since rogues will be dual wielding. Having that 5% hit at level 25 is super important. And then we have 1 point left over, and we're going to throw that into Riposte, a strike that becomes active after parrying an opponent's attack. This attack deals 150% weapon damage and disarms the target for 6 seconds. Now let's go check out some rogue tank gear. So I've compiled a list of what I think would be some of the best pre-raid gear for a rogue tank going into Blackfathom Deeps to tank for the first time. All of these pieces of gear you can acquire before stepping foot in the raid. That's important to note. So the first one being our headpiece, the Bright Eye Goggles from Engineering. You're getting 9 Spirit, 9 Stamina from those. Your next slot item would be the Sentinel's Medallion, giving you 6 Agility and 2 Stamina. And this is acquired by getting honored with Silverwing Sentinels or Warsong Outriders, depending if you're Horde or Alliance. Moving on down to shoulders, I chose Robust Shoulders of the Monkey simply because I think getting shoulders here with of the Monkey on them would be super important for tanking because you're going to get stamina and agility. Obviously, the Mantle of Thieves would be your best in-slot shoulders, but it drops as a world drop in Razorfen Crawl, and I'm not sure how many people are going to be doing that, so there's probably not going to be many of these out in the world, and if there are, they're going to be pretty expensive. So moving down, another Cape of the Monkey here. I got Cutthroat's Cape of the Monkey, 4 agility, 4 stamina with an enchant of 3 agility on it. And if you're Alliance, the Tunic of Westfall is going to be your absolute best in slot. chest. When it comes to rogue tanking, you're getting 5 stamina, 11 agility from that, so that's pretty huge. But let's say you're horde and you don't have access to Tunic of Westfall, any one of these of the monkey chests should do the trick. 7 agility, 7 stamina is pretty big. Even going down to the level 21s, you're getting 6 agility, 6 stamina, not that big of a difference, and really good stats. So moving down to the wrists, we have Headhunter's Bands of the Monkey. These are another 4 agility, 4 stamina set of bracers, and I enchanted them with 5 strength to give us a little bit extra attack power. Moving down to our weapons, we're going to be using Beezle's Basher. If you can get your hands on this, this will be your best main hand weapon, and then your offhand would be Protector's Sword. If you can't get your hands on these weapons, they are BOE blues, they are world drops, they may be pretty expensive. If you can't get your hands on them, what you can do is use any of these swords of the monkey. The Viking swords of the monkey are great for a main hand because they're 2.7 speed, and then you could just find a one-hander and throw that in your offhand, or even a dagger would do the trick. But if you're not using those 2 blues, I would suggest using of the monkey for that agility and stamina. And then in our glove slot, we have Pathfinder Gloves of the Monkey. These are great because we're getting 6 agility, 6 stamina, and we can enchant them with 5 agility for a total of 11 agility on these gloves. So anything similar to those stats will do the trick. And for our belt, we have Deviate Scale Belt, which is a leatherworker belt. It would definitely be your best in slot for tanking, simply because you're getting 6 stamina, 5 agility, and 3 spirit for some health regen. Again, if you can't get your hands on this, anything of the monkey will do. The common trend here for rogue tanking is that the stamina and agility is your main thing here. You need to stack stamina, stack agility for that dodge and crit, so that it helps you with your threat, and that's going to be the goal here. So for our legs, Leggings of the Fang are pretty great as well. We have 5 strength, 4 stamina, 9 agility, so you're getting a bunch of attack power, some crit, some dodge, and some health from these legs. Pretty hard to beat. I mean, you can go for Trip Runner Dungarees, which would be the absolute best in slot item. However, you do need a complete Gnomer gun, and I'm sure there's some Giga Chads out there that will do it at level 25, but for most people, Leggings of the Fang are worth farming. Whether you're Horde or Alliance, I would get in there and try and farm those. For our boots, we went with Pathfinder Boots of the Monkey. These are great because we're getting 6 agility, 6 stamina yet again, and we can enchant them with 3 agility. For our rings, we have Protector's Band, 4 strength, 4 agility, 2 stamina. This is a massive ring that you can obtain by getting honored with Warsong Rep, again, whether you're Horde or Alliance. So very good ring here. And in the second slot, if you're Alliance, going for the Seal of Rin is going to be something that everyone is going to do. I can almost guarantee that. So that would be your second best in slot ring. If you can't grab that, pick up like Savannah Ring of the Monkey, Prairie Ring of the Monkey. Any ring of the monkey in that second slot will do the trick. And then Arena Grandmaster as a trinket actually will benefit you for rogue tanking. It's going to give you 1% dodge and an on-use bubble that you can pop if you get in some trouble. Not the easiest thing in the world to farm, but it is doable, so I'm going to put that on this list in case you want a challenge. For the second slot, I just threw Goblin Jumper Cables in there. And then for our range slot, we have the Ranger Bow, which will give you 1 agility, so it's not that big of a stat stick for you, so I wouldn't worry about this or spend a ton of money on this. I would honestly just use throwing weapons or any range weapon of your choice. Getting 1 agility at this level would be nice, but it's not that detrimental to how we're going to do as a tank, so don't worry about it all that much. Now let's move on to the Rogue DPS build. Okay, so for our Rogue DPS build, for our chest rune, we're going to go with Deadly Brew. When you inflict any other poison on a target, you also inflict deadly poison, so that's going to be our chest rune right there. Leg rune, you guessed it, we're going to go with Envenom, a finishing move that deals instant poison damage based on your deadly poison doses on the target. Following the Envenom attack, you have a 75% increased frequency of applying instant poison for 1 second, plus an additional 1 second per combo point. 1 dose is activated per combo, so this is going to basically replace Eviscerate as your finisher and combo point spender. Moving down to the hand rune, we're going to pick up Mutilate. Instantly attack with both weapons for 100% weapon damage, plus an additional 20 with each weapon. Damage is increased by 20% against poison targets, awards 2 combo points. Mutilate benefits from all talents and effects that trigger from or modify backstab unless otherwise specified. So basically what we're going to be doing here is playing a vanilla Mutilate rogue. However, something weird is going on where I don't see that it says Mutilate requires daggers. I'm not sure if that's just not in this tooltip, and it will, but we'll get into that. I'll show you guys 2 good daggers to use or to you know, mace and sword weapons that we could use as well, depending on how that plays out. For our talent, we're going to go into the assassination tree. We're going to put 5 points in malice for an extra 5% crit chance, 3 points in improved slice and dice because we want to basically keep this up all the time and never let it fall off, 2 points into ruthlessness to give us a 40% chance to add a combo point after we envenom, 5 points in lethality to increase that damage from mutilate. So basically when mutilate crits, having 5 points in lethality is going to give us a 30% damage buff on that crit, and then 1 point in relentless strikes, which gives our envenom a 20% chance per combo point to restore 25 energy. So this is massive. Now let's head over to the gear. Okay, so for the gear, not that much different than the rogue tanking gear. The only difference is anything we were using of the monkey, we're going to sub it out and use of the tiger. So again, we have the engineering goggles as our helmet, the Silverwing Sentinel medallion as our neck piece from that Warsong rep. The Bristlebark Amis shoulder pads would be the absolute pre-raid best in slot shoulders, simply because you're getting 6 agility and 3 strength from those, so it's nothing but damage coming off of those. Cape of the Brotherhood would be a great choice here too. 6 agility, 3 stamina with an enchant of 3 agility on it. Tunic of Westfall yet again, but what you can do if your horde is go with anything of agility, like the Dervish Tunic of Agility is 11 agility, and to be completely honest, sacrificing that 5 stamina from the Tunic of Westfall isn't going to hurt your DPS at all, so if you're horde, just simply go for something like that. Going down to our wrists, we have the Jurassic wrist guards that give 2 strength, 5 agility with a 5 strength enchant on them. These are going to be good pre-raid bracers because you're getting 2 strength and 5 agility, so you're getting some crit and you're gaining a bunch of attack power from these as well. Onto our weapons, again, Beazle's Basher would be the best main hand, Protector's Sword would be the best offhand. These are, one of these is a BOE, the Basher is a BOE, so it may be pretty pricey to pick up that, but Protector's Sword is fairly easy to get. You just need to get Revered with Warsong rep. But here's the thing. Mutilate usually requires you to use 2 daggers. I'm not sure if that's how this is going to be, but if you do need to use 2 daggers, what I would do is put, for Alliance, I would farm out the Prison Shank from Stockades as your main hand, and then in your offhand, you can throw something like Sentinel's Blade, which you can get from Silverwing Sentinels, rep Revered, that would be a good offhand here, or you can go with like Shadowfang. Any of those daggers will do the trick. So this would be if you need to use daggers for Mutilate spec. Again, not 100% sure on that. It's not on the tooltip, but it might just not be showing up, and it may be there when the game is live, so we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, moving on to our gloves, we have Pathfinder Gloves of the Tiger, giving us 6 agility, 6 strength with a +5 agility enchant. Scaled Leather Belt of the Tiger, 6 agility, 6 strength. And then Leggings of the Fang here. We have, these are just going to be the best, the same with the tank spec. You're getting 5 strength, 4 stam, 9 agility, so it's a ton of damage from these. Again, you could go for trip runners, I mean, but I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work. I'm sure there's going to be people running around with them, but you're going to need to do some sketchy stuff to clear Gnomeregan at level 25. So I'm going to keep Leggings of the Fang here. These are easily farmable for Horde or Alliance. A lot easier for Horde. Not as easy for Alliance, but I do think that they're worth it if you can get them. Moving on down to boots, we have Pathfinder Footpads of Agility, giving you 8 agility, and you can enchant 3 agility on them for a total of 11 agility. Very nice set of boots. And then we have the Protector's Band from the Warsong rep. Again, you just need to be honored. That's a massive ring. 4 strength, 4 agi, 2 stam. Huge DPS increase by getting that ring. And then in the second slot, again, if you're Alliance, try and go for the Seal of Rin. If you can't get that, any of these rings of agility will do the trick. And as for trinkets, none of these trinkets are actually going to increase your DPS by anything, but you can farm them out if you want to. And then for our range slot, again, Ranger Bow is the only ranged weapon at this level with any stats on it whatsoever. That 1 agility may give you a tiny bit more DPS, but I wouldn't sweat it if you can't get your hands on this. Just use throwing weapons or any other ranged weapon of your choice. Okay, so we're going to start off with my Warlock Destruction Shadow Cleave build. So the talents for this build are pretty simple. We're going to put 5 points into improved Shadow Bolt to increase our shadow damage on that target. We're going to get 5 points in Bane to reduce the cast time of our Shadow Bolt. We're going to get 5 points in Devastation to get that extra 5% crit chance, and then 1 point in improved Firebolt because we'll have our Imp out when DPSing with this build. Now for our runes, we're going to go with the chest rune of Demonic Tactics. Increase the melee and spell critical strike chance of you and your pet by 10%. Demonic Grace, surge with fell energy, increasing your pet and your own dodge chance by 30%, and your chance to critically hit with all attacks by 305, which is massive. And we're going to combine that and this, so basically you're getting a 40%, almost a little more than a 40% chance to crit increase, And then, of course, Shadow Bolt Volley. Your Shadow Bolt now strikes up to 5 targets within a chain distance of 10 yards, but for 20 reduced damage. That's not really going to matter because we're going to be critting uncontrollably. So that's going to be a really good build for clearing maybe trash in the raid or doing 5-man dungeons. This build is going to absolutely slap when it comes to cleave and AoE. And then for some gear pieces for this build, for our headpiece, we're going to go with the Bright Eye Goggles, obviously from engineering to get that 9 spirit, 9 stamina. For our neck piece, anything of the eagle will work. You just want some intellect and stamina in this slot. And then for our shoulders, Sage's Mantle of Shadow Wrath or any one of the Shadow Wrath shoulder pieces that you can find on the auction house. Just getting a little bit of shadow damage here for this build is going to really be good because, as you guys can see here with Shadow Bolt Volley, we do a little bit less damage with those Shadow Bolts. So having these few pieces of Shadow Wrath gear will actually pretty much negate that effect completely. And then we're going to have for our cloak, same thing. Anything you can find with Shadow Wrath on it will be great. And for our chest piece, Robes of Aragul from Shadowfang Keep would be pretty bis for this. There are some better ones like Black Velvet Robes, but they're a world drop, so I would honestly just go for Robes of Aragul. You can get this from SFK pretty easily. Whether you're Horde or Alliance, doesn't really matter. And then for our wrists here, we want another Shadow Wrath piece. Anything of Shadow Wrath will do. Anything from 7 to 9 Shadow damage will actually benefit us quite a bit. And then for our staff here, there's a bunch of options. Obviously, Staff of Shade would be the best option because it's 21 Shadow damage. But the thing is, that is another BOE, so this is going to be pretty pricey. I'm pretty sure if you're Horde, you have access to Staff of Sorenrock. Sorenok, however you say that. Which is a quest, I'm pretty sure, in Durotar. But if you are not Horde, I would honestly just go for the Emberstone Staff from Deadmines. That would work just as well. Obviously, you'll get a DPS increase by having Staff of the Shade, but Emberstone Staff would work just as good. I mean, you're getting stamina, spirit, and intel from this, so maybe you'd have to life tap a few less times in a boss fight, so the DPS might be kind of close. But I wouldn't worry about that too much at this level. And then for our handpiece, we want Hands of Darkness. These are a tailor-made glove slot item, 5 spirit and 9 shadow damage on these. So if you could find those or craft them yourselves, I'm assuming if you're playing Warlock and if you're watching this video and you're trying to min-max at all, you're most likely going to be a tailor so that you can craft those big boots later on when you get into the raid. But yeah, Hands of Darkness would be a great spot here. Great gloves for this slot. And if you can't get your hands on Hands of Darkness just yet, then just pick up like Silver Thread gloves off the auction house or bright gloves or Sanguine hand wraps. Moving to our Belt of Aragul is pretty good. We get 3 spirit, 10 intellect from that. That should do pretty good when it comes to mana conservation. Silver Thread pants for our leg slot, we get 8 intellect, 4 spirit, 4 stamina. So those are really good pants. And then, of course, if you are a tailor, like I said, or if you just want to farm gold and buy them off the auction house, Spider Silk boots are a great set of boots before you enter this raid. 7 spirit, 4 intellect, and 4 stamina is pretty big for a boot slot at this level, so definitely try and get your hands on those. As for our rings, we have the Advisor's Ring, which will give you 2 stamina and 5 spell damage and 2 MP5. Clearly, you definitely need to farm this out. That's from the Warsong Gulch rep with Honored reputation. And then if you're Alliance, it'll be pretty easy to farm out the Lavishly Jeweled Ring. If you can't, and maybe if you're Horde and you don't want to go do Deadmines, you can always pick up the Azora's Will ring off the auction house. 5 intellect will help you out quite a bit. And then for your trinket slots, obviously I'm just going to throw Arena Grandmaster in here, even though it really won't do anything to increase your DPS, and Goblin Jumper Cables or whatever you want to put in these 2 slots. There's no real trinkets that'll benefit your DPS at this level. And then for Wand, I have Cookie Stirring Wand if you want to grab that from Deadmines, but you shouldn't be needing to wand too much when you're trying to DPS in this raid or in these dungeons, simply because you're going to be able to life tap, and then you have that increased damage, so stuff is going to be dying fairly quick. But let's move on to my Fire Destruction build. So for the Fire Destruction build, what you're going to do is put 5 points into Cataclysm to get that 5% reduced mana cost, 5 points into Bane to reduce the cast time of your Immolate, and 5 points in Devastation, of course, for your crit chance increase, and then 1 point in Improved Firebolt for your Imp. And then for our chest room, we're going to take Lake of Fire, which makes Rain of Fire leave a Lake of Fire on the ground that increases all fire damage you deal and your demon pet deal to affected enemies by 40% for 15 seconds. So this is pretty big, guys. And then you obviously want to pick up Incinerate for your leg rune, and what that's basically going to be used is in replacement of Shadow Bolt. You're not going to be using Shadow Bolt with this build. You're going to be basically spamming Incinerate, and that also increases the fire damage you do to a target. And then, of course, we're going to take Chaos Bolt on our hand rune, which is just a massive DPS ability. The only thing with this build here is you have no constant cleave. You have Rain of Fire, which you're going to be opening with on packs of mobs. And you could just spam it the entire time. And let's say, you're fighting a boss that has 3 adds. You drop a Rain of Fire to get some AoE and get some cleave, get that, that fire damage increase on all of those enemies. And then you can just spam them down with Incinerate and Chaos Bolt on cooldown, of course. So that would be the talents for that. And then as for our gear, very similar to our Shadow Cleave build. The only differences here are going to be the shoulders. You want to go with the Feline Mantle from Shadowfang Keep. For our cape slot, our cloak slot, we want to do Elder's Cloak of Fiery Wrath, or any of the Fiery Wrath cloaks will do. So if you just search up Fiery, you can see there's a ton of them. So you should be able to pick one of these up easily off the auction house. So grab a Fiery Wrath cloak in that slot, and then Robes of Aragul for your chest should be great. And then on our bracers, we want to go with another Fiery Wrath set of bracers for a little bit more fire damage. And then for our staff here, this should be pretty good. We can easily pick up a green staff of Fiery Wrath, or even a one-hander and an offhand if you find that first. But Magician's Staff of Fiery Wrath would be your absolute best in slot staff for this build. You're going to get 16 fire damage from just your staff slot, which is pretty huge. And then for our gloves, this will be our last piece of fiery gear. You can pick up the Raincaller Mitts of Fiery Wrath for 11 extra fire damage. So that'll be pretty strong. And then for our belt, same as the other spec, Belt of Aragul. Silver thread pants are really good, of course. And then Spider Silk boots. There's really nothing better than that at this level. And then Advisor's Ring from that Warsong rep, honored again. Lavishly Jeweled Ring if you're Alliance and you want to farm Dead Mines. Or even if you're Horde and you want to farm Dead Mines. Nothing stopping you from doing it. But again, you can always pick up Azora's Will or Chrome Ring of Intellect. Any of these Intellect rings will do. And then for trinkets, of course, Arena Grandmaster, Goblin Jumper Cables, whatever you want to put in those slots. Completely up to you. And then any wand will also do. I always select the Cookie Stirring Wand. If you're going to play Alliance, there's no reason to not just kind of farm that out. You're probably going to do Dead Mines a few times, right? So, or maybe you want to go with Firestarter for this build, or Dancing Flame, actually. I'm just thinking about this now. Dancing Flame might actually be huge. If you take into consideration the fact that your Incinerate and your Rain of Fire are basically making enemies take more than almost double fire damage, and you go or maybe something's at 10%, 15%, and you don't want to life tap and then start casting again because you're going to lose a ton of DPS because it's going to die too quick. You drop a quick Rain of Fire and an Incinerate, and now you just spam your wand. If it's fire damage, they're going to take increased damage from that. So moving on to our Affliction build. So for our Affliction build, you guessed it, we're going into the Affliction tree. So we have 4 points in Suppression, 5 points in Corruption. We want those points in Suppression so that your casts don't get resisted, especially at this level. 2 points in Improved Life Tap, 1 point in Amplify Curse, 3 points in Curse of Agony, and 1 point in Nightfall. To be honest, at level 25, your talents aren't that detrimental to how your character is going to play and how much DPS you do, so don't worry about the fact that we don't really have that great of talents at this level that are going to benefit an Affliction spec. But these will definitely help. You obviously want Instant Corruption, and the basically 8% hit chance is great. And then Amplify Curse and Improve Curse of Agony for bosses is going to be awesome as well. And then for our chest room, we have Master Channeler. What this does is it basically takes Drain Life and turns it into a dot and makes you heal more from it. You probably don't need the healing if you're in raid and getting healed by healers, but it's going to basically allow you to place another dot on the boss that you don't need to sit there and channel anymore. So it's just a straight up DPS increase, so you have to take that. Everlasting Affliction, meaning Drain Life, Drain Soul, Shadow Bolt, Shadow Cleave, Searing Pain, Incinerate, and Haunt. Refresh the duration of your corruption on the target, so you always want to take Everlasting Affliction. It's very similar to how Affliction Warlock plays in Wrath. You're going to put your corruption up, and then when you're spamming Shadow Bolt outside of keeping your other dots up, or Haunt, it's going to constantly refresh corruption, so you're never going to have to cast corruption again as long as you don't let it fall off. So that's the build. Let's head on over to the gear. The gear for this build is going to be exactly the same as our Shadow Cleave build. You want just, those few pieces of Shadow Wrath gear to get you up to kind of like anywhere between 40 to 55 Shadow spell damage, and then fill the other pieces out with like the Bright Eye Engineering Goggles, Robes of Aragul, Belt of Aragul, Silver Thread Pants, Spider Silk Boots, the same rings. You want to basically kind of balance it between, 3 to 5 pieces of Shadow Wrath gear for the spell damage, and then fill out the rest of your gear slots with intellect, stamina, maybe even a little bit of spirit. So moving on to last but not least, the Warlock tank build. So when we take a look at our talents here, there's nothing in these trees aside from 5 points in Demonology that really is going to make your tanking great at level 25. I think just the fact of using the Metamorphosis rune is going to make up for that, though. So basically all you really are going to do here is put 5 points into Demonic Embrace to get that 15% extra stamina, 5 points into Cataclysm in the Destruction tree because you're going to be spamming Shadow Cleave and Searing Pain. So this will make it so that all of your, basically everything you're casting to maintain threat and do a ton of AoE damage is going to cost 5% less mana. So obviously we want that. I put 5 points into Improved Corruption. I guess when you're, fighting a boss, maybe you can just throw Corruption up there as you're running in, but right before you charge maybe. And then 1 point in Improved Imp. I'm not sure how this is going to work, if we're going to have a pet out while we're tanking. It doesn't really say anything about that in the rune, like if we're not allowed to have a pet out. So if we are going to have a pet out, I'm assuming it's going to be the Imp giving the stamina buff and sitting back with the entire raid just DPSing for you. So that's why I put this point here, but that's subject to change. And then for our runes, obviously we want Master Channeler to make Drain Life no longer a channel, just like the Affliction spec. It's going to be a dot that you throw up, and it's going to heal you for 50% more each time it deals damage. So you kind of have a little bit of self-sustain there, which is really nice. And then for our leg rune, Demonic Grace, this is basically a big cooldown that's going to give you 30% dodge chance and 305 crit, which is enormous. You could pop this as you charge into a boss or to a pack of mobs to just, and then start spamming Shadow Cleave to kind of help you just immediately get all that threat. And you're also going to be dodging 30% more, which is great. And then Metamorphosis clearly is the tanking choice here. It's going to increase your armor by 500%. It reduces the chance you'll be critically hit by 6%, increases your threat by 100%, increasing mana gain from life tap by 100%. It's just massive. And Searing Pain, it will turn into an instant cast. Shadow Bolt will become that Shadow Cleave that hits up to 3 nearby enemies. Curse of Recklessness will now be your taunt, and you'll get Demon Charge, which is basically like a, an out-of-combat charge that will stun the enemy for 1 second. And Demonic Howl, which is basically an AoE taunt, forcing all nearby enemies to focus attacks on you for 6 seconds. As for the gear for this build, we're obviously going to want those Engineering Goggles again for that stamina and that spirit. For our neck piece, anything of the eagle will work. For our shoulder piece, same thing. You want of the eagle, get that intellect, get that stamina built up a little bit more. Remember, we do have that talent. Demonic Embrace increases your total stamina by 15%, but reduces your spirit by 5%. So yeah, anything with stamina and intellect is going to be absolutely amazing for Warlock tanking. I have pretty much of the eagle for my neck, shoulders, cape. For our chest, obviously, Robes of Aragul, there's nothing better than that for you right now. For your wrist, Silver Thread Cuffs, you want that 5 intel, 2 stamina. You can even enchant them with 5 intellect for a little bit more mana. And then Staff of Shade, again, is probably the best in slot weapon here. This is going to increase, the damage of your Shadow Cleave, which is massive. If you can't find that on the auction house or can't afford it, we can always go with a Shadow Wrath staff, like the Magician's Staff of Shadow Wrath, which is 16 shadow damage. And then Hands of Darkness, another tailor crafted glove slot item that gives you 9 shadow damage and 5 spirits. Warsong Sash. This is going to be great for the Warlock tanking spec. You get this from Ashenvale. It's 9 intellect, 4 stamina. Can't really beat that if you're going for a stamina tanky, stamina and intellect Warlock build. Silver Thread Pants again. Spider Silk Boots again. Advisor's Ring again. That's the Warsong Rep ring. And then in the other slot here, we do want to put any ring that has of the Eagle. Chrome Ring of the Eagle would be perfect. 4 intellect, 4 stamina. And then here, trinkets might matter a little bit. Arena Grandmaster, farming this out if you're doing Warlock tanking would be pretty beneficial. You're getting an extra dodge chance all the time. And then an on use that'll give you a shield that gives you from 750 to 1251 absorption. So that would be pretty useful. And then you could just throw anything in the other slot here. And I grabbed Cookie's Stirring Wand for the wand slot. However, when you're tanking, I don't think you're going to be using a wand very much. All right, so here we are. We have our level 25 warrior. I'm going to show you guys the talent build that we went with first. I think that this build will be giving you the most optimal amount of DPS. You're going to put 5 points into cruelty for that extra 5% chance to crit, 2 points into rend, 3 points into heroic strike, 2 points into improved charge, 3 points in tactical mastery, simply because not really any other place we could put those that would benefit our damage at all. And then 1 point into overpower. With our chest rune, we're using flagellation. Our leg rune, we're using consumed by rage. Our hand rune, we're using single-minded fury. So going back over to our gear. So for our helmet, we're going to be using Humbert's helmet. Humbert's helmet is from Hillsbrad Foothills. It's a world drop. It drops off the rifleman out there, but you're going to see this all over the auction house most likely. If you don't see this all over the auction house, you can try and go for the Spark Metal Cough, which is from the Morbent Fell quest in Duskwood. Might be a little hard, but if you're grouping, it shouldn't be that bad. So I would either go with the Spark Metal Cough or Humbert's helmet if you can pick this up off the auction house. For our neck piece, we're going with the Sentinel's Medallion. This is obtained by Silverwing Sentinel's rep. You have to just get it to Honored. And like you guys know, we're going to be doing a ton of World PvP in Ashenvale and Warsong Gulch, so picking up this neck piece is pretty huge. Next down, we have Bristlebark Amis, which are leather shoulders. Again, another world drop. You might be able to pick these up off the auction house. If you can't, the Glimmering Mail Pauldrons are a close second, and you see them all over the place, but Bristlebark Amis is definitely a little bit better because you're getting 6 agility, 3 strength, so you're getting 2 stats that benefit your damage as opposed to just the 6 strength from the Glimmering Mail Pauldrons. But you can also opt to go for dark leather shoulders if you're going for more crit. There's a bunch of good options for when it comes to shoulders, but the Bristlebark Amis is definitely the highest DPS increase. Now for cape, obviously there's a bunch of capes, but like I said before, I want this pre-bis list to be as easily obtainable as possible without spending hundreds and hundreds of gold. We can go with the Cape of the Brotherhood from Dead Mines, 6 agility, 3 stamina, which isn't bad. We can go with the 4 strength, 3 stamina Slayer's Cape. We can go with the Parachute Cape from Engineering. And then obviously this stuff is from the Black Fathom Deeps raid, so that won't be on there. But Slayer's Cape is going to be one that's easy to obtain, 4 strength, 3 stamina, and it's actually more DPS than the Cape of the Brotherhood, which is why I have it selected. But if you do get the Cape of the Brotherhood, this is a great pick as well. So for our chest piece, we want to try and go with the Shining Silver Breastplate. It's simply a super strong chest plate, 14 strength, 6 stamina. However, this is a crafted item, and the prices are probably going to be through the roof because everyone's going to realize that it's pre-raid bis. So your next best chest to use here would be the Mutant Scale Breastplate, which is literally 13 strength, 5 stamina. So you're losing 1 strength, 1 stamina, and this one is a free drop from Wailing Caverns. You have a 23% chance to get it from Mutanus the Devourer. So I would try and farm this out, to be honest. Might not be worth. This is going to be like upwards of like 35 plus gold. It may come down as the phase goes, but for week 1, week 2, Mutant Scale Breastplate is probably your best option. It's free, and you're not really losing much DPS at all. You're losing 1 strength when it comes to DPS. So Mutant Scale Breastplate, probably your better option here. So we'll just select that just so you guys can see it here. And for our wrists, we have the Patterned Bronze Bracers. There's obviously others like the Pugilist Bracers, but these drop from Razorfen Crawl as a BOE. Not sure how many people are going to be running that at level 25, so I wouldn't count on those being there. The Jorgen Bracers, pretty rare again, and these will be really pricey. Obviously, they're very good. But the next ones down here, the Patterned Bronze Bracers, are going to be the easiest ones to obtain, or the Slayer's Cuffs, or the Jurassic Wrist Guards. So for this, we're going to just keep the Patterned Bronze Bracers on there, and then, of course, you can enchant those with 5 strength as well. All this green under the items are all the enchants I have selected for these pieces of gear. And then for weapons. So this might be where you do have to farm a little bit of gold and spend some money. So for our main hand weapon, we're going with Beazle's Basher. This is just a nice 2.5 speed main hand mace, especially if you're human. This is going to be really nice, although it doesn't matter that much at this level. but 6 strength, 2 spirit, 18.4 DPS, 60 top end damage. This is a really nice main hand if you're dual wielding. And then for your offhand, we're going with Head Splitter, 2.3 speed, axe, 3 strength, 5 stamina, 18.9 DPS, 57 top end damage. However, you can also swap these out as well. You can maybe get a Cruel Barb or a Stinging Viper from Wailing Caverns. Cruel Barb is actually a really good main hand, so that's an option for your main hand. It's a 2.8 speed. You're going to want to have a slower weapon in your main hand than your offhand. So these would be the absolute best when it comes to pure damage output, but you can kind of swap this out. Let's say we get a Cruel Barb main hand, and then we go with a Head Splitter offhand or even a Stinging Viper offhand. That would work as well. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be selecting the best in slot pre-raid damage items that you can get. So over for your gloves, we have the Void Touch leather gloves. So this is a new pair of gloves that is going to be in Season of Discovery, crafted by leather workers. You do have to be a leather worker to use these. So if you're not a leather worker, you cannot use these. So if you are, they're really good. Increase your chance to hit by 1%, and they have an on-use effect that you can pop that gives you 10% attack speed. However, if you're not going leather working, the second best set of gloves that you're going to be able to use here would be the Glimmering Mail Gauntlets, and then obviously we want to enchant our gloves with 5 strength. So we'll leave the Void Touch leather gloves up there because that is technically the best damage increase. But again, if you're not a leather worker, go with the Glimmering Mail Gauntlets and enchant them with 5 strength. The damage between these two isn't going to be that different. 10% attack speed is pretty nice, and the 1% hit, especially when you're dual wielding, is really nice. But you can opt to go for either one of these. So for our belts, we're going to Cobran's Grasp. This drops off Lord Cobran and Wailing Caverns, an 18% chance, 8 strength, 3 stamina. Really, really nice belt. If you're having trouble getting this, you can always pick up the Emblazoned Belt off the auction house, 7 strength, 3 stamina. It's a little bit of a DPS loss, but honestly, this one would be so much more easily obtained. So I would probably opt to go for this if you're not farming Wailing Caverns endlessly until you get Cobran's Grasp. So for our legs, we have Glimmering Mail leg guards. You do have the option to get Trip Runner Dungarees, which are a massive DPS increase. However, I don't see anyone completing Rig Wars at level 25. I mean, I'm sure some people will, but it's not going to be that easy. So for most people, Glimmering Mail leg guards would be your pre-raid best in slot gear. With the third in line would be the Chassis of Westfall, 5 stamina, 11 strength. But the Glimmering Mail leg guards are actually a little bit better when it comes to pure damage, simply because you're getting 8 strength, 7 agility, as opposed to just 11 strength when it comes to DPS increases. And now for your boots, obviously the best in slot boots would be the Feet of the Lynx, 8 agility, 3 strength. Problem with this is that these are going to be through the roof expensive. They're going to be pretty much unaffordable to most players, and they're going to be in high demand. So if you can't get your hands on Feet of the Lynx right away, a close second would be the Slayer Slippers at 6 strength, 4 spirit. So those wouldn't be a bad choice, and then we're going to enchant those with 3 agility. And as for rings, we have Protector's Band from Silverwing Sentinels rep Honored. This is Warsong rep. So make sure you farm this out. This ring is very worth it. 4 strength, 4 agility, 2 stamina. We're going to want that. And then for our second slot, we can go with Silverlane's Family Seal, 7 strength, 3 stam. We can go with a Tiger Band. We can go with Seal of Rin. All good choices. Thunderbrow ring is a BOE. I don't see this that often, but if you do and you can pick it up, this would be your definitely be your best second ring. But if you can't, I would go with probably Silverlane's Family Seal, and then Tiger Band in that exact order. And then as for trinkets, we know that there's not many trinkets in the game right now that are going to increase your DPS at level 25. So if you want to farm out Arena Grandmaster just to have it as a bubble and an extra dodge chance, maybe some jumper cables you could throw in there if you're an engineer. Trinket slots are kind of iffy when it comes to level 25. There's not much that's going to really help your DPS there. And then for our range slot, obviously the Ranger Bow would be the biggest DPS increase simply because it has that 1 agility, but it is only 1 agility, so don't stress on this too much. Pretty much just pick up any ranged weapon or use throwing weapons, which is what I normally do. But if I can get my hands on the Ranger Bow, that 1 agility would be pretty nice. So that is my pre-raid best in slot list for Warriors. Now, if you want to go a 2-handed DPS build, I know most people are like, oh, aren't you going to miss a lot as dual-wielding one-handers, blah, blah, blah. Yes, and that's kind of the point that the enemies dodge a lot, and you have this point in improved overpower, so you're basically getting to spam overpower as much as possible. It does work really well. That's how I leveled my hardcore warrior. I leveled from 20 to like 35 dual wielding as arms, and it was absolutely broken because you don't have hit rating. Enemies are dodging a lot. Yes, you do miss, but they're dodging a lot, and you're able to basically spam overpower 3-4 times in one fight with a mob. And by that time, they're usually dead, so it's pretty good. But if you do want to go a two-hander build, what we're going to do here is go back to our talents, and the only things we're really going to change here are some of our runes. We're going to be going with Frenzied Assault instead of Consumed by Rage. When wielding two-handed weapons, your attack speed is increased by 20%. And then we're obviously going to take off Single-Minded Fury, and right here, what I would be doing is putting on Endless Rage to help us generate a lot more rage. So Flagellation, Frenzied Assault, Endless Rage. Talents stay the same. And then for our weapons, we're going to come over to two-handers. And the Gizmotron Mega Chopper is a BOE. Going to be really expensive because it's 14 strength, 5 agility. There's simply no better two-hander at this level. But then there's plenty of others that you can use as well. Like if you can manage to do the Wetlands quest, you have it available to you to defeat Necrosh, but it's going to be pretty hard. I think he's like level 30 or 32 to get the Ancient War Sword. You can buy a Blood Pike. Or simply Smite's Mighty Hammer will still do a ton of damage. But the absolute best in-slot weapon would be Gizmotron's Mega Chopper. But for me, I'm going to be playing Dual Wield Fury, Dual Wield Arms, because I'm telling you guys, it's absolutely broken, and you are going to wish that you were playing it. So yeah, this is my pre-raid best in slot list for DPSing on warriors. If you want to tank on a warrior, let's say you want a shield, I don't know if you're going to be going prot really in this raid. If you are, I do have a build on that I put on the channel, but what we would pretty much do here is swap out our main hand to something like the Prison Shank. Yeah, so our main hand would be Prison Shank, and then our offhand, can we search shields here? Yeah, there we go. So we would put our main hand as Prison Shank, and then obviously Shield of Thorson's really good, but there's a ton of good shields here. There's one from Duskwood that's really good. I think it's like Crest of Darkshire or something like that. Let's see, of Darkshire. Yeah, there we go. So that's from the quest in Duskwood. This would probably be one of the best shields that you can use with the Prison Shank in your main hand because it's super fast, so you'll be generating threat a lot. But I can't see this really being a thing unless these raids are tuned to a point where you're getting super crushed. So if they are, and you need a shield and a one-hander, this would be your best in slot. But otherwise, this is going to be your DPS build right here. And then obviously, we're going to throw in a single Silverwing Battle Tabard so that we look awesome. Okay, so let's start with pure DPS, Ret Spec Paladin. For our helmet, the Spark Metal Cough is going to be the best one, which is from the Morbid Fell quest in Duskwood. This may be a little bit hard to do unless you do it with a 5-man group. It is definitely possible. If you can't get that, Humbert's Helm is an easy choice. Very simple. It's going to be on the auction house. You could probably pick it up there. It's a world drop from the Rifleman in Hillsbrad Foothills, or you can even try and farm it. Might be a little bit hard, but if you can't get your hands on that, then the Engineering Goggles would be best, but Spark Metal Cough is simply the best because you get 9 Strength, 8 Spirit, and Humbert's Helm, you're getting Stamina and Agility. So Spark Metal Cough would be the one to try and go for. You can do this. It is available to you at level 25, so I would try and go for that. As for our neck piece, Sentinel's Medallion, honored with Silverwing Sentinels, which is the Warsong rep. We're going to be doing a ton of Warsong Gulch and open world PvP in Ashenvale where you're going to get this rep, so Sentinel's Medallion shouldn't be that hard to pick up. As for shoulders, the Bristlebark Amis is a world drop. These might be pretty pricey because they're on the pre-raid BIS list for Warrior and Rogue as well, but these would be simply your highest DPS increase if you could pick these up on the auction house or get lucky with a drop. If not, you can probably opt in to go for the Elite Shoulders, which you could buy from vendors, or the Glimmering Mail Pauldrons, which will be pretty cheap on the auction house. As for our cape, Slayer's Cape is going to be your best option here. It has 4 strength, 3 stamina on it. Cape of the Brotherhood's not bad either, 6 agility, 3 stamina, but when you're talking about pure DPS increases, Slayer's Cape is definitely a little bit better, and you can enchant 3 agility on that. As for your chest, we have the Shining Silver Breastplate. This is made by Blacksmiths. The price is probably going to be through the roof, 14 strength, 6 stamina. It's going to be pre-raid BIS for Warrior as well. So an easier alternative would be the Mutant Scale Breastplate. All you're losing in terms of DPS here is 1 strength, and this drops for free from Mutanus the Devourer if you can farm that out. in Wailing Caverns. So Mutant Scale Breastplate would probably be your best option there. Slayer's Cuffs for your wrist, 4 strength, 4 stamina. They're a world drop. Going to be pretty cheap on the auction house to pick these up as well. Obviously, there's betters like the Pugilist Bracers, but they drop in Razorfen Crawl as a world drop, so I'm not sure if those are actually going to be available for us. So Slayer's Cuffs are going to be your best option here when it comes to pre-raid best in slot. As for your weapon, Gizmotron Mega Chopper, clearly the best two-hander you're going to be able to use at this level. It's going to be very expensive. It's going to be probably close to 100 gold. So for most people, this is going to be unattainable. And a close second would most likely just be Varigan's Fist, easy to obtain. Or, you know, Smite's Mighty Hammer will do the trick. But Varigan's Fist will definitely be a lot better than Smite's Mighty Hammer. So I would suggest going for your Paladin weapon and going for this. If you can get your hands on a Gizmotron Mega Chopper, that's going to be your best weapon. If not, Varigan's Fist is great with 5 melee damage on it, enchanted. And then as for our gloves, again, these are a new item added, the Void Touch leather gloves. You have to be a leather worker, but they give you 1% hit and 10% attack speed on use. So if you're not a leather worker, the next best thing would be the Glimmering Mail Gauntlets. These would give you your 7 strength, 3 agility, and you can enchant them with 5 strength. So they're actually really strong. But if you are a leather worker, these would be your pre-raid best in slot when it comes to damage. As for our belt, Cobran's Grasp from Lord Cobran in Wailing Caverns is an 18% drop chance. So it may be kind of hard to pick this up. If you can't get it, just go with an Emblazoned Belt. This should be all over the auction house, to be completely honest. Or Garneg's War Belt from Wetlands, or even the Glimmering Mail Girdle is not a bad choice. I would opt to go for either the Emblazoned Belt or the Glimmering Mail Girdle while you're trying to farm Cobran's Grasp. These should be pretty cheap on the auction house, especially the Glimmering Mail Girdle. It's not bad. 7 strength, 2 stamina. Really, all you're losing is 1 strength, 3 agility by going with this. But this would be your actual pre-raid best in slot. As for our legs here, we have Glimmering Mail Leg Guards. Another close second would be Chassis of Westfall with the 11 strength, 5 stamina, but this has 8 strength, 7 agility, so it is a higher DPS increase, and it will be pretty cheap on the auction house. But, you know, you never know. It does have really good stats. It could be up there, but definitely farmable and easy to obtain. You do have Trip Runner Dungarees available to you, but I don't think many people are going to be completing Rig Wars at level 25. I'm sure there's going to be some Giga Chads that do. But for most people, Glimmering Mail Leg Guards are going to be your pre-raid best in slot. And again, with the feet here, Feet of the Lynx are clearly the highest DPS increase. Again, going to be very pricey, so I would suggest going for Slayer's Slippers or even the Silver Bronze Boots. These would be a lot more obtainable, easier to obtain, I should say, for most people. Feet of the Lynx are going to be through the roof expensive, and if you can't get your hands on those, Slayer's Slippers are a close second, and if not, Silver Bronze Boots or Forest Leather Boots, anything with the 4 strength stat on it will work for this. So, but we're going to leave Feet of the Lynx there because that is your actual pre-raid best in slot. And then for rings, Thunderbrow Ring is obviously the best. It's a BOE, going to be really expensive, so I would select the Protector's Band, which is obtained through Silverwing Sentinel's rep. You can get honored with them very easily in Season of Discovery. We're going to be doing a ton of World PvP in Ashenvale, which gives you the rep, and Warsong Gulch. So Protector's Band would be your #1 ring there, and then you can farm out the Silverlane's Family Seal from Silverlane in Shadowfang Keep, or throw a Tiger Band on, or Seal of Rin, or even just a Demon Band. Any of those should do the trick. And then as for trinkets, not many trinkets available to us at this level. If you want to farm out an Arena Grandmaster, it's not going to increase your DPS by any means at all. Or Rune of Duty, that's going to give you 4 stamina. You could throw on some Goblin Jumper Cables. Trinkets at this level are very hard to come by. So let's move on to the Holy Paladin. Okay, so for Holy Paladin, Spell Power Goggles Extreme, these are going to be kind of hard to come by. So what you can really do is go for any of the others, like the Bright Eye Goggles. But if you can get your hands on these Spell Power Goggles Extreme, go for it. If not, Green Tinted Goggles or Bright Eye Goggles, any of those will do the trick. So for your neck piece, we're going to want to go with the Glowing Green Talisman, which is 1 stamina, 6 spirit. That's going to help you with some mana regeneration. For the Feline Mantle, it's going to be your shoulder piece. This is a Shadowfang Keep drop. Not bad. 10 Intellect, 3 Spirit from Wolfmaster Nandos in there. It's a really high drop chance, so you probably get that pretty easily. Obviously, the Magician's Mantle would be a better choice, but this is a BOE world drop, and it's going to be pretty pricey. Or you can grab the Mantle of Honor from the Bride of the Embalmer quest in Duskwood. But Feline Mantle should probably be pretty easy to farm out, and I would say that would be your best choice when it comes to easy and not wanting to spend a ton of money. For your cape, we have Caretaker's Cape, which is from Honored Rep with Silverwing Sentinels. That's that Warsong Gulch rep again. This is a really good healing cape, so I would suggest farming this out. If you can't, you can probably just buy the Resilient Cape off the auction house for pretty cheap, or the Silver Thread Cape off the auction house, and then farm this out, because this is a really good 9 healing on a cape at level 25 and 4 stam, 2 spirit. This is really good. I wouldn't pass this up. I would definitely farm that out. As for your chest piece, we have Robes of Aragul. As you probably guessed it, they drop off Aragul in Shadowfang Keep. Definitely a really, really good chest piece when it comes to Holy Paladin. There's a lot of BOEs that you can also go for, but these are pretty good, and I wouldn't suggest spending the money on these unless you could pick them up pretty cheap. So I would try and farm out Robes of Aragul, and until you can farm that out, pick up some Bright Armor on the auction house. It's usually pretty cheap. Once you obtain that chest, I would definitely throw 50 mana enchant on there as well. And then for bracers, we have Dukebi bracers. These are a world drop, 4 spirit, 3 intellect, pretty easy to come by, or owl bracers for the 5 intellect, or silver thread cuffs for the 5 intellect, 2 stamina. Any of these will do. You have mind thrust bracers that are going to be in here, 9 intellect but negative 5 stamina. I would honestly opt to go for any of these. They'll be pretty easy to pick up, and they're going to pretty much do the exact same thing. And as for weapon, this is where it gets a little weird. I honestly do think that Varrigan's Fist is probably your best bet here. It's a 2-hander. It's your Paladin level 20 quest chain. You get 12 Spirit, which is huge at this level, and 6 Intellect, 7 Stamina. It's probably better than anything else at this level. I mean, if you look at one-handers, there's really not many one-handers that are going to give you healing stats. I mean, you have Strength of Purpose, but that's a new item, it looks like, that drops in the Black Fathom Deeps raid. So I would stick with Varrigan's Fist as your 2-hander. With no enchant on it, because there's no enchants that benefit healing at this level. And then as for your gloves, I have True Faith gloves, which are made by Tailors. These are huge. 15 healing on your gloves and plus 3 intellect. So these would be your absolute pre-raid best in slot. If you can't get your hands on those, Mage Fist gloves are good too. They won't be that expensive. This doesn't seem accurate to me. They're not usually too expensive, but if they are, Silver Thread gloves are a close second, so definitely pick those up if you can't get the True Faith gloves. For our belt slot, we have Belt of Aragul. Again, another drop off of Aragul. You can do a lot of Shadowfang Keep to try and get this stuff, or you can pick up Silverlined Belt if you could find it pretty cheap. It's a world drop. Or you can go with the Wizard's Belt, which is sold by vendors, or, Resilient Cord gives you 6 intellect, 4 spirit, but obviously your best pre-raid slot would be Belt of Aragul. As for our legs, we have the Nightwatch Pantaloons, which you can get from the Morbid Fell quest, but I would suggest going for Silver Thread Pants, because I do think they're a little bit better. 8 intellect, 4 spirit, 4 stamina, as opposed to 8 intellect, 9 stamina. Silver Thread Pants are definitely your best here. Darkweave Breeches are pretty good too, but I wouldn't even bother spending the money on it, because Silver Thread Pants are just up there as probably one of the best. It's a world drop, so they're going to be all over the auction house, but they might be pretty pricey, knowing that healers, this is probably going to be their best in slot pants. And as for boots, we have the extra planar Spider Silk boots. You do need to be a tailor for these. They have an on-use effect. They increase your healing by 7. They increase your chance to hit with spells, which doesn't benefit our healing per se, but they are pretty good. So these would be your best in-slot pre-raid boots, or maybe even for the entire phase. But again, you need to be a tailor. So if you're not a tailor, then the close second would be the Silver Thread boots for the 5 intellect, 4 stamina. And then as for our rings, we have Lore Keeper's Ring, which you can get from Silverwing Sentinels Honored Rep. Really good ring. 2 stamina, 5 spell damage and spell power for your healing, and 2 MP5. So you get some mana regeneration from this as well, and it's really easily obtained, so I would pick that up. And then, of course, you also have the Black Widow Band, which drops off the Leech Widows in Wetlands, which is pretty good. 7 intellect on that. Or you can farm out the Lavishly Jeweled Ring. You can also go for the Seal of Rin, or Aura's Will, which is an easy world drop to obtain. 5 intellect, or Snake Hoop. Willick's the Importer. I don't think many people are going to be getting Snake Hoop. So I would just simply go for Lore Keeper's Ring, Black Widow Band, Lavishly Jeweled Ring, Azora's Will, Volcanic Rock Ring. That's one that we see a lot of. That's another good choice. And then for trinkets, we have Arena Grandmaster. These trinkets are not really going to benefit your healing at all, but you can pick them up. Rune of Duty or Arena Grandmaster. These are going to be pretty good. But yeah, that would be my pre-raid best in slot list for Holy Paladins. Let's move on to a tanky set. So, not sure if you're going to need a tanky set if you're trying to tank on a Paladin, but if you are, we have Humbert's Helm, which is easily obtainable. It's a world drop, You could pick that up. If not, you can do the Morbid Fell quest for Spark Metal Cough, or use some engineering goggles for the stamina and spirits. All those would be good choices. We have the the Sentinel's Medallion from the Warsong rep again here for the neck piece. You just need to get honored, so that's pretty easy to get. We have Slayer's Cape, which is 4 strength, 3 stamina, and it's a world drop. Easily to get that. You can easily obtain that. And then for our chest piece, Shining Silver Breastplate, again, same as our DPS spec, but like I said before, it's probably easier to farm out Mutant Scale Breastplate from Wailing Caverns. That should be pretty easy, or you can even use Defias Armor. It has a lot of stamina on it, and some strength from Dead Mines, so that's a good choice. Slayer's Cuffs for your wrists, definitely one of the best choices that are going to be easy to obtain. 4 stamina, 4 strength. We're going to throw a 5 stamina enchant on there, and a plus 2 to all stats on our chest. And then for your tanking weapon, I suggest using a 2-hander, and I suggest using Varrigan's Fist. You're getting stamina. It's a fairly quick 2-hander, so it'll be easy to attack and generate threat, but there's plenty of options here. You can even use Smite's Mighty Hammer, or if you want to go with a 1-hander and a shield, you can pick up the Butcher Slicer from Shadowfang Keep. You could pick up the Protector's Sword from Silverwing Sentinels, but it's a little bit too slow in my opinion. You want kind of a fast tanking weapon. You could pick up Cookie's Tenderizer, another pretty slow one though. So I would suggest for this level that tanking at level 25, probably your best bet is going to be using a 2-hander. Varrigan's Fist should do the trick because it's pretty quick. And then we have our leatherworking gloves again here, just because you get that 1% hit chance and the 10% attack speed increase on use. But for just standard gloves, you can go with the green iron gauntlets or the glimmering mail gauntlets, and obviously get +5 strength on those. And then moving down to the belt, we have Belt of Stars, which is from Look to the Stars, the quest in Duskwood. 6 strength, 6 stamina. Pretty good belt, but you can probably just pick up Slayer's Sash on the auction house pretty cheap, or Emblazoned Belt. But if you do manage to do that quest, Belt of Stars would be your best for a little bit more stamina build here. And then Chassis of Westfall would most likely be your best piece that you can obtain if you're going for like a stamina strength build here. Green Iron Boots, definitely one of the easier ones to pick up on the auction house. They may be a little pricey, but you can pick them up probably for a few gold, and they're definitely going to be good. 7 stamina, 3 strength. If you're going for more stam, is definitely worth it. And then for rings, we have Silverlane's Family Seal from Shadowfang Keep. Definitely going to be one of the best rings you can obtain, but until you farm that out, you can obviously equip a Demon Band, which you can find on the auction house, or Protector's Band from Silverwing Sentinel's Honored rep, which you're probably going to have. That's 4 strength, 4 agility, 2 stamina, so that's a nice choice as well. And then we have Seal of Rin, obviously, and then Agrina Grandmaster would be your best in slot trinket. You're going to get a dodge chance and then an on use that will give you a massive bubble to pop, and then Rune of Duty. This would be your pre-raid best in slot gear if you're trying to be a little bit more tanky. You want to have a more stamina strength build, a little bit less agility as far as when it comes to our DPS set. So this would be that. But if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button. It really does help me out a lot, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next time I post a video. And if you want to hang out with me live, I do stream on Twitch Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Twitch.tv/Hammerdance. I'll drop a link to that in the description below this video. And I'm going to be posting all of these pre-raid best in slot lists on our Discord. So if you want to join the Discord, they're going to be in there in their own channels. I'm going to have a Warrior one, Paladin, Rogue, Hunter, Mage. Everyone will have its own channel, and we can discuss things in there as well. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you all in the next one.